Chapter 4:15. Gucci was overjoyed. With a heaven monarch joining his lineage, his strength would immediately swell. Only with an expert would the secret sect grow stronger. Gucci was very clear about this. He said, "A phone will have to rely on seniors' help in the future." "Haha, please take a seat." Gao Yi stroked his long beard and said, "Help? Ha, you must be joking. His strength is not much weaker than mine." Once this statement was out, it was like a bomb that shocked everyone present. What did he mean? Lei Xingfeng's strength was comparable to a heaven monarch's? Was this a joke, or was it nonsense? However, everyone could tell from Gao Ye's tone that it was definitely not a joke, and was a very serious statement. Gucci couldn't understand it at all. He said, "Senior must be joking." Gao Yi sat down and said indifferently, "I am not spouting nonsense. A Feng's strength has already reached the heaven monarch realm. If you don't believe me, you can try." "Ha, I tried, but I couldn't win against him." Lei Xingfeng complained in his heart. This old man was spouting nonsense the moment he came up. How was he going to get along with his master? He quickly said, "Master, don't listen to Uncle Gao's nonsense. He is just joking." Gucci stared at Lei Xingfeng. After a while, he revealed a trace of doubt. He actually couldn't see through Lei Xingfeng's cultivation. It was a little unfathomable. How was this possible? Tanya was indeed the master's wife. She smiled and said, "A Feng, did you obtain some benefits in the forbidden ground?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Master's wife, I found a place that specializes in cultivating the thunder attribute and obtained a cultivation technique." So Gucci immediately stood up and said in shock, "Cultivation technique? You are talking about a cultivation technique?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, it is the cultivation technique that was engraved on the wall. I was fortunate enough to successfully cultivate it." Gucci said, "If that's the case, a Feng, let's go to the courtyard and test your strength." Gao Ye's mouth moved as if he wanted to say something. However, he wisely didn't say anything. Lei Xingfeng was a little hesitant as he said, "Master, why don't you let me demonstrate? We don't have to fight directly." He was now a little afraid that he would not be able to hold back. If he hurt Gucci, he would regret it until he died. Gucci thought about it and agreed. Lei Xingfeng could fight with a heaven monarch while he was only a peak stage, true monarch. It would be a joke if he didn't go up and embarrass himself. After all, he was Lei Xingfeng's master. It wouldn't be a good thing if he was defeated by his disciple. He said, "And that's fine. Come to the courtyard and try it out." The group of people arrived at the courtyard. Because this area was a stone forest, Lei Xingfeng would naturally test his moves against a huge rock. Gucci also had the same idea. He pointed at a huge rock that was 7 or 8 meters tall and said, "This is the rock. Attack it." Xian Zhaoluan, Qi Meiyun, Teng Yuan, and even Feng Chenzong felt dizzy. They couldn't understand how Lei Xingfeng could reach such a height and not be at a disadvantage when fighting with a heaven monarch. They felt that it was nonsense. Therefore, they were very uncertain about Lei Xingfeng's moves and felt like they were dreaming. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, everyone step back a little." The courtyard was big enough for Lei Xingfeng to display his moves. Everyone stepped back a little. Gucci and Tang Ye also stepped back a little. As for Gao Yi, he stood behind Lei Xingfeng and was the closest to Lei Xingfeng. He wasn't afraid of accidentally injuring him. Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm starting." In an instant, a monstrous aura spread out from Lei Xingfeng's body. One must know that thunder and lightning were the most natural. Once Lei Xingfeng activated the thunder in his body, he couldn't control his aura and immediately displayed it. Not to mention the others, Even Gucci and Tang, you couldn't help but take a step back. This extremely powerful aura made the couple feel extreme danger. Tung Yuan's legs went soft, and he sat on the ground. He was the weakest among them and only had 7 true ring bodies. He couldn't resist such a terrifying aura at all. Even if he stood 100 meters behind Lei Xingfeng, he still couldn't resist. Xian Zhaoluan helped Tung Yuan up. He said in horror, "How can it be so terrifying?" Qi Meiyun wasn't any better. She looked at Lei Xingfeng now as if she was looking at a mountain. She couldn't even look up at him. He was too strong. Just his aura alone was enough to make her breathless. Her face turned pale in an instant. Gucci stared at Lei Xingfeng. He was starting to believe Gao Ye's words. With this terrifying aura, Lei Xingfeng's strength was definitely not weak. Lei Xingfeng slowly raised his right hand. A faint sound of thunder began to ring out. When his right hand reached his waist, Lei Xingfeng's hand began to flicker with a silver light. In an instant, countless sounds of thunder rang out, shocking everyone. Following the sound of thunder, Lei Xingfeng's right hand spat out a ray of light. In a breath, a ghost head blade, condensed from lightning, appeared. This was Lei Xingfeng's lightning blade used in battle, the Phantom Lightning Blade. The 2-meter-long lightning blade radiated light in all directions. Electric arcs danced and crackled. Lei Xingfeng's aura was mixed with the sound of thunder. Taking a step forward, Lei Xingfeng suddenly raised his lightning blade. He roared and rushed forward. When he got close to the boulder, the lightning blade fiercely slashed out. A ray of silver light flashed. It was too fast. When the silver light landed, the sound of thunder exploded. Boom! This was the first time Lei Xingfeng attacked with all his strength. Because it wasn't an attack aimed at a person, he seemed to be unrestrained. Withdrawing his lightning blade and aura, Lei Xingfeng turned around and said, "It's done." Everyone was dumbfounded. The boulder in front of them was still standing there, undamaged. Gucci and Tangya's expressions were serious. Feng Qinzong was a little confused, but he knew in his heart that it wasn't that simple. Xian Zhaoluan's eyes were far worse. He laughed and said, "Hey, a Feng, what kind of attack is this?" Gao Yi also revealed a trace of surprise. From this attack, it seemed that Lei Xingfeng had held back when he fought with him. Lei Xingfeng turned around and took a second step. The 8-meter-tall and 10-meter-wide boulder behind him suddenly collapsed. Although it didn't completely collapse, the 6-meter-wide boulder in the middle was crushed into powder. Smoke and dust rose. The boulder was also split into 2, missing the 6-meter-long boulder in the middle. The power of this strike wasn't a physical attack, but a lightning strike that directly broke the structure of the boulder. Let alone Gucci, even Xian Zhaoluan, and the others could destroy this boulder. However, to achieve this level of destruction wasn't something they could do. Gucci understood that if he were to attack, he might be able to break the boulder, but he definitely wouldn't be able to crush it into powder. He was now a little convinced that Lei Xingfeng might really have the strength to fight against a heavenly monarch. Gucci's expression was a little complicated. He came to Lei Xingfeng's side and said, "Should I call you Martial Uncle, or should I call you a Feng?" Lei Xingfeng had the mindset of his previous life. Of course, he couldn't let his master call him Martial Uncle, just because his strength had skyrocketed. He smiled and said, "Master, I don't care about anything else. Once a master, always a master. Master, just call me a Feng." Gucci's heart was filled with warmth. This youngest disciple of his had always been the one he doted on the most. Although he couldn't teach him anything, he always treated Lei Xingfeng as his own child. "Good boy, good boy," Gucci said as he patted Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. Tanya said, "A Feng, will you still call me mistress?" Lei Xingfeng said with certainty. Of course. Tanya giggled and didn't say anything else. After returning to the room and sitting down, Lei Xingfeng asked, Master, why isn't the ancestral master here? Are the other secret sects also in this area? Gucci said, Your ancestral master and the others are the last to retreat. All the cultivators above the heavenly monarch realm are covering the retreat of the secret sects. Lei Xingfeng touched his nose and said, Master, what happened this time? Wasn't there a restriction set up by the Tao Lord? Why was it breached? Gucci sighed and said, Our secret sects underestimated the enemy. The Dawn continent. There are too many strong cultivators that we didn't know about. As a result, the enemy breached the restriction and killed their way in. Many people died. Fortunately, we were in the middle and had time to move. It's a well-preserved secret sect. Feng Qinzong said, As long as Master can escape unscathed, there won't be any problems. Lei Xingfeng suddenly thought of something important and said, Did my little sister's secret sect move here? Also, have you found my old man? Gucci said, Don't worry, a phone. I remember that Yao Yao's secret sect also moved here. As for your father, I don't know if he's with Yao Yao. Lei Xingfeng said, Do you have the coordinates of their secret sects? Gucci shook his head regretfully and said, No, but it's too chaotic. Everyone is busy retreating, especially when faced with the problem of whether to retreat or advance. The natives of the Dawn continent are too powerful. Even if we mobilize all of our Tao monarchs, we won't be able to stop them. There's a sea of enemies, and their strength isn't weak. What's worse is that they don't fear death at all. We can't afford it. Lei Xingfeng looked at Gucci uneasily. He said, Sai, I hope we can meet again. He didn't expect to lose contact with his little sister, Yi again. Tanya said, Don't worry too much. I believe Yao Yao will be prepared. Their secret sect is very strong, at least stronger than us. They have many experts. As long as they come to the outer space, we'll definitely meet again. Feng Qinzong said, There are many secret sects that moved here this time. It won't be long before we can contact each other. The elders will take care of this. If we don't unite here, our secret sect will be in danger. Lei Xingfeng said, All right, I'll find them slowly. Gao Yi said, Your camp here isn't safe. There are many high-level cultivators here. If one of them comes, you'll be in trouble. They lack everything, and most of them are very extreme. Gucci's face suddenly became serious. He was in a difficult position. There was no secret space to hide here. Of course, if he wanted to return to the secret space, he would have to go through the Dawn continent or use the sky divination crystal to force open the secret door. He could also bring people over, but the sky divination crystal was very rare. If there wasn't something important, he wouldn't use the precious sky divination crystal. Chapter 416. In fact, Lei Xingfeng had obtained a large amount of sky evolution crystals and even other high-grade crystals. It wasn't difficult for him to return. Of course, Lei Xingfeng wasn't foolish enough to say it out loud. Right at this moment, someone walked in and said, Everyone is here. Lei Xingfeng was pleasantly surprised. Ancestor, you are back. Wu Yang looked very tired as he said, A Feng is here too. Who are you? He immediately stared at Lei Xingfeng. This was also an instinct to feel threatened. Immediately after, he noticed something strange about Lei Xingfeng. He actually felt a trace of threat from Lei Xingfeng. What was going on? Gao Yi stood up and said, I am a Feng clan's guest elder, Heaven Monarch Gao Yi. Wu Yang's expression was very interesting. He revealed a trace of disbelief before he was overjoyed. However, he quickly reacted and asked curiously, How is this possible? Old brother, where did you come from? He didn't dare to be arrogant and had to address Gao Yi as old brother. He could feel that Gao Ye's cultivation was similar to his. In fact, Gao Yi felt a greater threat. After all, Wu Yang was a peak stage heaven monarch. This wasn't a joke, and Gao Yi could clearly feel the threat. Gao Yi said, "Don't be so suspicious. Don't worry. A Feng saved me, and I have nowhere to go. Therefore, I followed him and considered joining a Feng's clan. I am tired from running around. After being in the outer realm for so many years, I just want to live a more stable life. That's all." He knew that with his cultivation, he would definitely make Gao Yi extremely fearful. Some things had to be said openly. Wu Yang naturally wouldn't object. His secret sect was a little weak now. With such an expert around, the camp would be much more stable. He smiled and said, "Welcome, welcome to join." Gao Yi said, "It is my honor." The two exchanged a few polite words before Wu Yang looked at Lei Xingfeng and said, "A Feng, treat Senior Gao Yi well." And, "A Feng, no, you advanced? That's not right. That's strange. How did you become so strange?" Gao Yi said, "That's not strange. A Feng has the strength of a heaven monarch." Wu Yang was aghast. "What? How is this possible?" Gucci said, "We tested it just now. A Feng does have the strength." Wu Yang asked, "Did you spar with a Feng?" Gucci smiled and said, "That's not the case. If I were to try it out, I would probably be at a disadvantage. A Feng cleaved the boulder with his blade. This blade represents his level." Wu Yang couldn't understand at all. This was too different from what he knew. The last time he saw Lei Xingfeng, he was still a 9-ring true body expert. Now he actually had the strength of a heaven monarch. This was too shocking. After a long while he reacted and said, "You must have obtained the cultivation technique of the Forbidden Ground." Xian Feng spoke. "It's not only the training method, but also the place to train." Wu Yang asked, "What place?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Magnetic Storm Mountain. This place should be man-made. Furthermore, it was created by a powerhouse with the thunder attribute. There is a specialized cultivation ground there. It was there that I obtained the cultivation technique and successfully cultivated it. And it is a basic cultivation technique." Wu Yang said, "There is actually such a good thing. Ha, as expected of a Feng. Your luck is so good that it is off the charts." He couldn't help but laugh. His mood was extremely good. Originally, he was worried about the safety of the secret sect. However, with 2 heaven monarch experts, the strength of the secret sect had increased greatly. Gucci asked curiously, "How do you know there is a magnetic storm mountain there?" Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "I obtained a powerful puppet, and a puppet with intelligence. She was the one who gave me the information." Everyone's eyes were filled with shock and horror. This time, even Wu Yang was no exception. He said, "Let me see." Lei Xingfeng said, "She is outside. Ask the waiter to call her in." Soon Jingxia walked in. She came in front of Lei Xingfeng, nodded slightly, and stood behind Lei Xingfeng. Hiss! One must know that Jingxia's appearance was quite special. Her face seemed to be covered with a thin layer of crystal, which made her look exceptionally beautiful and strange. Wu Yang said, "It is really a crystal puppet. I have only heard of it, but I have never seen it before." Jingxia said, "I am Jingxia, not a crystal puppet." Instantly, everyone clicked their tongues in amazement. They could also see that this Jingxia was indeed intelligent because she could make the correct answer. Her reaction was obviously different from the puppet beast. The puppet beast couldn't speak and could only make 1 or 2 roars at most. Gucci said, "This puppet, no, how strong is this Jingxia?" Lei Xingfeng said, "She can fight with a true monarch. As for whether she can fight with a heaven monarch, I don't know." Wu Yang and Gucci looked at each other and thought at the same time. Lei Xingfeng's faction was too outstanding. Putting everything else aside, he had a heaven monarch expert and a puppet that could fight with a true monarch. In addition, Lei Xingfeng's strength had reached the heaven monarch realm. In other words, Lei Xingfeng could almost form his own faction. However, now was definitely not the time to split up. One must know that this was the outer realm, a very dangerous place. Here, only by uniting all the forces that could be united could one survive for a long time. Wu Yang hesitated and said, "Afeng, your strength now is enough for you to be independent. Have you ever thought of?" He had no choice but to ask. Lei Xingfeng's strength was enough for him to take seriously. Lei Xingfeng said decisively, "I have never thought of being independent. Ancestor, I still want to be with everyone." Without any hesitation, he had never thought of being independent. This was because he knew that if a group was strong, splitting up would only make them weak. Wu Yang and Guqi looked gratified. They also didn't want Lei Xingfeng to split up. Wu Yang said, "Very good. Everyone is in the same boat. I believe that we can establish ourselves here." Guqi said, "Afeng, don't worry. We will give you greater freedom and responsibility. Yes, in terms of resources, we will also tilt towards you." He. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "That's right. Master, ancestor, the camp we are in is at the edge of a forbidden area. The depths of the stone forest is the forbidden area. Moreover, the forbidden area's restrictions have basically lost their effect. Jingxia is very familiar with this forbidden area. Not only was she familiar with it, but Jingxia had also come from this forbidden area." Wu Yang's eyes lit up. A forbidden area that could be entered. He was actually very dissatisfied with the current camp. The main reason was that it was very difficult to develop. The surroundings were all boulders, and there wasn't enough open space, let alone plant and develop. If they could enter the forbidden area, this place would be much bigger. He said, "The restrictions have lost their effect." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "That's right. Most of the restrictions have lost their effect. As long as we divide the area and avoid dangerous areas, we can use the forbidden area here." He said this with great confidence. It must be known that Jingxia could do this. She could divide the living area and the activity area. Guqi couldn't help but exclaim, "That's great. Our current camp has too many restrictions. We don't dare to go out and look around. If we can find a suitable camp here, that would be great." Lei Xingfeng turned his head and asked, "Jingxia, can you find the complete area?" Jingxia nodded and said, "No problem. We can still use the remaining restrictions." Wu Yang said happily, "Good, good. We will move immediately and move into the forbidden area as soon as possible. Afeng, I have always felt uneasy in this place. Perhaps I am overthinking. However, the safety of the camp is really annoying. The experts in his family couldn't stay in the camp for long periods of time, but the camp couldn't be without experts to oversee it. This was what he was most worried about. With Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, and Jingxia, as long as they took turns overseeing the camp, he would be able to leave and explore. He also wanted to find a suitable cultivation method. This kind of thing could only be found in the forbidden area. He led Wu Yang, Guqi, Tanya, and the others into the forbidden area. After leaving the stone forest, there was an endless plain. Under Jingxia's lead, they quickly determined the location of the new camp. Guqi directly opened the secret door and moved everyone in. This land wasn't far from the group of huge rocks. They couldn't see the huge rocks from here. The group of huge rocks was shrouded in a layer of fog. This was the white fog caused by the remaining restrictions. It wouldn't hurt people, but it could easily make people get lost in it. When they came from the secret chamber, many people specially brought a lot of building materials, food, and seeds. Therefore, as soon as they arrived, they immediately started to build houses. They weren't building temporary camps, but real houses for long-term residents. Due to the existence of the Mirror Realm, Lei Xingfeng didn't make a big fuss. He only built a few bungalows and surrounded a small courtyard. This was just a place to stay. Lei Xingfeng had basically explored this forbidden area. He even released the people of the Mirror Realm to search, but they didn't find anything good. Jingxia only led them to several secret places and collected a lot of crystals. In fact, there were some places that even Jingxia couldn't go to. She knew there were such places, but she didn't know the way to enter them. She didn't know the location, so she couldn't use the short-range secret door to communicate. Jingxia led Wu Yang, Guqi, Lei Xingfeng, and the others to walk around the forbidden area through the short-range secret door. There was a plantation that they didn't go to last time. The plantation wasn't a cultivation garden. One was a place to grow food, and the other was a place to grow spiritual herbs. After discovering the plantation, Guqi was happy. Although they brought a lot of supplies, including food, which was enough for the people in the secret door to eat for a few years, it was absolutely impossible to just sit there and eat. Therefore, someone had to grow food. With the plantation, the big problem of food would be solved. Wu Yang was eyeing the short-range secret door, so he directly tore down the secret door in several places that he didn't need and moved them to other places. A secret door, not to mention other things, just the materials required were enough to give people a headache. If there was a ready-made secret door, of course, he would take it away. Lei Xingfeng found out that the secret door could be taken away. Of course, the premise was that you also had a secret door. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to go out even if you tore down the local secret door. After obtaining a total of 3 secret doors, Wu Yang was very happy. These 3 secret doors could be used immediately. One of them was placed in a secret place outside the forbidden area. Then, the people in the camp could leave through this secret door at any time. Chapter 417. One of the secret doors was placed in the camp as a hub to connect to most of the secret doors. The last secret door was temporarily put away so that it could be used at any time in case something happened. With Jingxia leading the way, there were no more secrets in this forbidden area. Most of the places could be visited. Of course, there were a few places that couldn't be entered. Even Jingxia couldn't enter, as she didn't have enough authority. If she tried to force her way in, she would be attacked directly. Wu Yang and the others also didn't dare to enter. This wasn't an ordinary small forbidden area. It was obviously a large forbidden area. However, for some unknown reason, most of the restrictions in the forbidden area were ineffective. This allowed Lei Xingfeng to enter the core area and reap a great harvest. The greatest harvest was the 3 types of crystals and some gold-ranked puppets. The other gains were limited to him. On the contrary, they weren't as clean as Wu Yang's. He even tore down the secret doors. Under Jingxia's guidance, the anti-air weapons on the towers were reactivated. They had to be activated, or else experts would come down from the sky. Even if they were discovered, there would still be room for them to react. There was once a Tao monarch who used this method to search for forbidden areas. Basically, if there was an attack, it would be the forbidden area. However, if there were no anti-air attacks, it would be even more dangerous for experts to enter directly. Wu Yang sighed. We finally found a suitable camp. For a secret door like ours, it can be considered as a place to settle down. We can slowly develop in the future. Lei Xingfeng said, we still lack manpower. We lack a lot of people. Ancestor, if you have time, you have to go back and bring back more people, especially those with cultivation potential. Wu Yang said, yes, I do have to go back soon. I'm afraid I'll have to force my way into the hidden space. The Dawn continent is too chaotic. It's not suitable for me to go there for the time being. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Ancestor, this is for you. He took out a box of heaven's divination crystals and handed it over. Wu Yong said, "What is it?" He took the box and opened it. He was immediately stunned and said, "Heaven's divination crystals. Good lad, you're really powerful. You have so many sky evolution crystals. Haha, I'm worried to death. The sky evolution crystals in my hands will be used up soon. Especially if I want to force my way back. It will consume even more. Haha, this is great." Gucci sighed. "Feng, you're the luckiest person I've ever met. No one can compare to you." Lei Xingfeng giggled and said, "Of course." His arrogance made Wu Yong and Gucci laugh. Gucci said, "I've only done one thing in my life that I'm proud of." Lei Xingfeng said, "What is it? Did he marry Master's wife?" Gucci said, "No, I took you in. I took in a disciple like you." Wu Yong laughed and said, "Be careful that Aya doesn't beat you up. Hee hee." Gucci said, "She won't. She dotes on a Feng more than I do. She won't beat me up for this." Lei Xingfeng said curiously, from Master's tone, "Master's wife often beats Master?" Gucci laughed and scolded, "Go away. Nonsense. Your Master's wife and I are very loving. You don't understand. This is your Master's wife's way of showing off her affection." Lei Xingfeng knew that regardless of whether they were showing off their affection, Master's wife would often beat Master. He had a strange expression on his face. Tang Yi usually looked virtuous and quiet. Why would she beat Master? He couldn't understand it at all. Gucci saw Lei Xingfeng's expression and knew what he was thinking. He said, "Don't think too much." His face was a little red. He knew in his heart that he was probably being despised by his disciple. Wu Yang said, "Feng, don't worry about your master. He's enjoying it." Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood. This was probably the so-called pleasure in the boudoir. Even if he was beaten, he would gladly endure it. He laughed twice and said no more. Gucci's embarrassment turned into anger. He slapped him on the back of his head and scolded jokingly, "Ha! What the hell are you talking about? How dare you laugh at Master?" Lei Xingfeng shrunk his neck and laughed. "I'm just envious of Master. Hee hee." Gucci heard him laughing again. He had no choice but to kick him and say, "Don't laugh." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, Master, hee hee." Wu Yang couldn't hold back his laughter as he watched the master and disciple bicker. Gucci covered his head and said, "When we go back, I'll ask Master's wife to settle this with you." Lei Xingfeng immediately raised his hands in surrender and said, "Master, I was wrong." Gucci proudly snorted and didn't continue to hold on. The camp was being built. Rows of houses were being built. Every disciple had their own area. Because every disciple had a group of subordinates, their living quarters were the responsibility of these direct descendants. Because there were no ordinary people here, everything was built by the direct descendants with their subordinates. These days, Gucci's disciples were very busy. Lei Xingfeng's status was completely different now. He was treated the same as Feng Qinzong. He could have whatever he wanted and was given a lot of space. However, Lei Xingfeng had the mirror realm. He didn't care about how much land he had. He just built a simple residence and surrounded it with walls. Because Lei Xingfeng didn't care about where he lived the least, his residence was the first to be completed. Before Wu Yang left, Xian Feng asked him to bring the old man, Lei Bao, back if he found him after returning to the secret hidden space. The original continent he was born in had been completely abandoned by the secret sect. The practitioners that remained there would become weaker and weaker because the inheritance had been completely broken. The only reason to go back was to find the next generation of cultivators. Once they found someone with talent, they would be brought back to the outer realm. This was the true heaven of cultivation. Wu Yang promised Lei Xingfeng that if he found Elder Thunderstorm, he would bring him back. Lei Xingfeng brought Jingxia back to his residence. He saw Gao Yi, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love sitting together. The four of them were chatting. When they saw Lei Xingfeng come in, they ignored him. Lei Xingfeng didn't mind. He pulled a chair and sat down. "What are you talking about?" Jean Dia smiled. He said, "If we cultivate again, would it be possible to break through the limits of our current realms?" Mad Eagle said, "Senior Gao said that if we have a suitable cultivation method and precious materials, maybe we can try. Of course, that would be too wasteful." Tiger Love also smiled. "It's wasteful. I'm curious. We don't have any precious materials or suitable cultivation methods. Where does this waste come from?" Jingxia turned and walked into the room. With her temper, she didn't want to talk to people unless she needed to. The black bird jumped from Lei Xingfeng's shoulder to the table and said, "I'm hungry. I can't bear the hunger and thirst." Lei Xingfeng said, "Wow, my blackbird can't bear the hunger and thirst." Gao Yi, Jean Dia, Mad Eagle, and Tiger Love all looked at Lei Xingfeng in shock. Lei Xingfeng then realized that there was something wrong with his words. He hurriedly pointed at the blackbird and smiled. "Birdbeard, aren't you usually very good at enduring hunger? What are you calling today?" The blackbird said, "I'm hungry. Of course I have to call when I'm hungry." Gao Yi said, "This bird is very fun." Everyone thought that the blackbird would be sharp-tongued. Who knew that the blackbird would flatter Gao Yi and say, "Sir, this bird's name is Birdbeard." "Ga, hello, sir." Their eyeballs fell to the ground, and their jaws smashed to the ground. Had the blackbird's personality changed? Lei Xingfeng had long known that the blackbird was a standard bully. You would never see the blackbird bicker with Wu Yang. This guy would flatter the experts when he saw them, and reveal his poisonous tongue when he saw the weak. This was the real blackbird. Jean Dia couldn't help but mutter, "This shameless guy." Gao Yi stretched out a finger and touched the blackbird's head. The guy rubbed his little head against Gao Ye's finger and said, "Sir, you're really an easygoing bird." Uffed, uffed. The others all spat out. Mad Eagle said, "An easygoing bird. F*CK. This guy has no moral integrity." Gao Yi was also amused. He said, "Good bird, good bird." The blackbird said proudly, "Thank you for the praise, sir." "It's an honor for Birdbeard." "Ga." Gao Yi said, "This bird is really smart. It panted when you said it was fat. This ability to climb the pole is really not small. It's really Birdbeard." Ha ha. He didn't hate the blackbird. One must know that this type of bird that knew how to flatter others was much smarter and wiser than many people. This bird definitely had its own thoughts, its own survival wisdom. Just by looking at how Xian Feng doted on it, one could tell that the blackbird knew how to please its master. Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, stop calling. This is for you." A plate of fresh meat was stuffed into the blackbird's mouth. It wasn't lying. It was really hungry. It quickly pecked at the food and was very busy. From time to time, it would make a cawing sound. Everyone understood that it was laughing, a sign of happiness. Lei Xingfeng said, "After resting for a while, I will set up secret door nodes on this continent. In the future, whether it's for battle, exploration, or finding all kinds of materials, these secret door nodes will be very important. The mirror world's function is not only to have a base, but also to be a transportation hub. Through the mirror world, even true human experts will have the right to use the secret door." Gao Yi said, "There's such a function? That's too convenient. If you fight someone and can't beat them, they can escape back to the mirror world even if you're not there?" Xian Feng nodded. "And this is a function I discovered recently, but I need to refine a little toy. I call it the escape card, and it needs to be connected to the secret door of the mirror world. Each escape card is limited to one person. You can't bring anyone back. Of course, monarchs and above can directly connect to the secret door of the mirror world. Gao Yi said, "You have to agree, right?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Of course. I'm the master of the mirror world. Once I control the mirror world, even if a Dao monarch enters and threatens my safety, I can throw him out even if I can't kill him." Gao Yi nodded. "That's more like it. Interesting. The mirror world is so strong." Lei Xingfeng sighed. "Ever since I came to the outer realm and went to the magnetic storm mountain, I realized how weak our secret door is. This world is really scary." Gao Yi also sighed. He said, "Do you know how I became a heavenly monarch?" "Haha, actually, as a true monarch, if I didn't get anything, I would have to go back. It's because I also got a cultivation technique. Although it's a basic cultivation technique and doesn't meet my requirements, it pushed my cultivation to the heavenly monarch level. Plus, the materials here are easy to get, so I'm almost at the peak of the heavenly monarch level." Chapter 418. Gao Yi shook his head regretfully and continued, "It's a pity that I'm all alone. I can't continue. If I want to take another step forward, it'll be extremely difficult." Lei Xingfeng said, "It seems like the most precious thing is the cultivation method. I think the inheritance of the hidden sect is very similar to the cultivation method of the Forbidden Lands, but it's not as effective as the cultivation method of the Forbidden Lands. It seems like it's missing a lot of key links." Gao Yi agreed and said, "That's right. Indeed, there are some missing links, which is why there are so-called enlightened masters and true monarchs in secret sections. Furthermore, every stage is extremely perverse. Those who can advance definitely have to be geniuses. But looking at the cultivation techniques here, it's completely different. Although it will consume a large amount of resources, the threshold is relatively low. You've definitely gotten a huge advantage this time. If you advanced to monarch in the hidden sect and then cultivated a new cultivation method, I believe it wouldn't have been so smooth." Lei Xingfeng was shocked. In fact, he had the same guess in his heart. It was just that his cultivation was very smooth, so he didn't think too much about it. He said, "Perhaps. I'm still very curious. I don't know where the people of the Forbidden Lands went. From the ruins they left behind, they were really too strong." Gao Yi said, "They're definitely stronger than us, but I believe that they're not the strongest." Jean Daya asked curiously, "Who's the strongest?" Gao Yi said, "I don't know, but I know very well that there's definitely an even stronger existence. It's just that we haven't seen it yet." Everyone fell silent. After a while, Mad Eagle said, "We're like country bumpkins. The more we see, the more insignificant we feel." Gao Yi agreed. "That's right. When I first came to the Forbidden Lands, I always thought that I was very strong. But in the end, I hit my head and bled in the Forbidden Lands. From charging around recklessly in the beginning to being careful now, it's all a lesson learned in blood. It's to the point where I have to rely on a phone to feel safe." Jean Daya nodded and said, "That's right. Only by huddling together can we keep warm. Back then, if I hadn't followed a phone, I reckon I'd be in poverty now. I might even have died." Gao Yi stared at him for a moment, then shook his head. "You don't have any hope at all. A phone gave you enough yin rings. You can still hold on for a few more decades. When your life force is completely exhausted, even the yin rings will be useless." Jean Daya was quite open-minded about it. He smiled and said, "I've had enough. A foam knows that I don't care about life and death. As long as I can live comfortably in my final moments, I will be very happy." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love didn't say anything. In fact, they knew in their hearts that their ending wouldn't be much different from Jean Daya's. Jean Daya had told Jean Depang to stop using yin rings before this. He now understood that using yin rings for cultivation was like drinking poison to quench one's thirst. It was fine if he didn't have any ambitions, but if he wanted to advance further, it was best not to use them. If the Forbidden Lands hadn't appeared, Jean Depang using yin rings to advance wouldn't have been a bad choice. But now that the Forbidden Lands and cultivation methods had appeared, if Jean Depang continued to use yin rings to cultivate, it would be a foolish decision. In Lei Xingfeng's branch, yin rings were gradually being used less and less. Unless one's potential wasn't enough, or if they didn't want to waste their energy on cultivation and wanted to take a shortcut, these people could use yin rings. The reason was clear. If he still wanted to rely on yin rings, Lei Xingfeng wouldn't stop him. Everyone had their own goals, and forcefully stopping him was pointless. Lei Xingfeng gradually had a vague idea, and that was to expand the number of people in his branch. With the mirror world, he would have a team of cultivators sooner or later. It wasn't 100,000, but it was possible to have thousands. The key was to have a certain number of people. After thinking for a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Jean, you don't have to follow me around anymore. I need someone to guard the hidden space and take in disciples with potential from home. Also, bring their family members into the mirror world." This wasn't an easy mission, but it was countless times safer than adventuring in the outer realm's forbidden lands. There wouldn't be any trials of life or death. For Jean Daya, it was the best choice to live out his last days in peace. Jean Daya thought for a while, then finally nodded. "All right, I'm tired too. It's not a bad idea to find a good place to rest." Gao Yi said, "I'll take Daya back and take a look at home. I haven't been back in a long time." Lei Xingfeng took out some sky evolution crystals and said, "This is for you. Without sky evolution crystals, you won't be able to go back." Gao Yi smiled. "I have them. All right, the more the better." He reached out and took the box. There were 6 sky evolution crystals in the box, which was enough for him. Lei Xingfeng said, "When you arrive, immediately return to the mirror world. Let me record the coordinates of the hidden space. It will be very convenient to go back and forth in the future." This was the most powerful thing about the mirror world. It ignored distance. As long as one had the coordinates, they could enter and exit. It was definitely an extremely powerful transportation hub. With Lei Xingfeng's activities, the mirror world could form a huge transportation network. As long as one had been there before, they could enter and exit again. After Gao Yi understood, he couldn't help but be amazed. The mirror world was actually so powerful. He now had even greater expectations for Lei Xingfeng. Perhaps the people of this world weren't very clear about the benefits of convenient transportation, but Lei Xingfeng was very clear. The transportation in his previous world was extremely developed, but it was still lacking compared to the mirror world. The transportation in his previous world could be compared to a village. It was extremely convenient to go anywhere. The benefits of this were earth-shattering. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Jean, after you go, pay attention to Yi. If you see him, you must bring him back." He was a little anxious now. If the old man Lei Bao really advanced, it would be a bad thing. If he could find the old man Lei Bao before he advanced and bring him to the magnetic storm mountain range, then he would have another great expert. Jean Daya nodded. "Don't worry, as long as the old man is there, I will definitely find him." Gao Yi said, "Don't worry, there are basically no experts there. At Daya's level, he should be able to sweep through everything." Mad Eagle said, "I will also go this time. There are still some ordinary people left at home, and there are also many outside. This time, I will bring them all back." Tiger Love said, "Old Eagle, I will go with you." Gao Yi said, "You don't have to come with me. I will go first and then return to the mirror world. A Feng will then open the secret door. This way, my burden will be much lighter. With his strength, after opening the secret door, he would need to use the Sky Evolution Crystal. Sending one person back and bringing 3 people back were 2 completely different concepts. This place was too far away from home. At this time, Xian Jialuan walked in and said, "A Feng, Master is looking for you." This time, Lei Xingfeng brought Jingxia with him to Guqi's new home. The fact that they were able to set up the camp in the forbidden area was mostly due to Jingxia. After all, she was a puppet created by the forbidden area and was very familiar with the area. That was why she was able to find a suitable place to live in. Guqi, Tanya, Feng Qinzong, eldest senior brother Yuko, second senior brother Xian Jialuan, Qi Meiyun by Tianming, Yin Yao, Tung Yuan, Niaoling, head steward AI8, and the others were all present. Lei Xingfeng came in and smiled. "Why is everyone here?" Guqi patted the chair next to him and said, "A Feng, sit here." In front of Feng Qinzong, there were some rules in the secret sect that were tacitly agreed upon. For example, in terms of seating, Lei Xingfeng's position was already higher than Feng Qinzong's. Of course, Feng Qinzong didn't have any objections. After all, Lei Xingfeng had the strength of a heaven monarch. Although he was only at the early stage of a heaven monarch was still a heaven monarch. He was much stronger than a true monarch like him, and even stronger than Guqi. Lei Xingfeng's senior brothers and sisters didn't have any objections. They had seen Lei Xingfeng's rise. Fortunately, Lei Xingfeng never fought for anything in the secret sect and had a good relationship with his senior brothers and sisters. Also, because he was a lucky kid, almost all of his senior brothers and sisters had benefited from him. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng was very popular. Jealousy was usually more common when one's strength was about the same. When the other party was far stronger than oneself, jealousy would be a lot less. Lei Xingfeng smiled and sat next to Guqi. He said, Master's wife, hello." Guqi and Tanya smiled and nodded. Lei Xingfeng was like their child, so he couldn't be like Feng Qinzong, who changed from a disciple to a junior brother. Lei Xingfeng himself didn't want to change their master-disciple relationship after his strength increased. This was a concept he had learned in his previous life. As the saying goes, a teacher for a day is a teacher for life. Guqi and Tang, you were very touched by this point. Guqi said, "All right, arrange the people on duty in the camp. You are all the masters of the camp, so everyone has to be responsible." Tanya sat quietly. She basically never interfered with the affairs of the hidden sect. Although she was also a monarch, not much weaker than Feng Qinzong, or even slightly stronger, she never interfered with the affairs of the hidden sect. This hidden sect could be said to be Guqi's life's work. The only pity was that he was stuck at the peak of monarch, unable to advance to heavenly monarch. He still had to rely on his master's help to establish himself among the many hidden sects. However, in recent years, his disciples had begun to show their strength. First, Feng Qinzong advanced to monarch. Then, Lei Xingfeng inexplicably gained the strength of a heavenly monarch. He even brought back a heavenly monarch guest, which greatly increased the strength of the hidden sect. Feng Qinzong said, "Yuko, you have to be responsible in the future. Take care of your junior brothers and sisters. Also, if you want to go out, you have to get my permission. Don't run around. There are many experts hidden here." Yuko said, "Yes, I will take care of it. However, Marshal Uncle, when are we going to organize an expedition to search for resources?" Guqi said, "This will be organized. Let me give you a warning. You are not allowed to think about exploring the forbidden area. Don't even think about it. The forbidden area is not somewhere you can explore. With your strength, you will die if you go in. Don't even think about coming out alive. Yuko was a bit unconvinced. He said, a Feng has been there, but he's fine. Chapter 419. Gucci said, unhappily, you want to compete with him in luck? He has the strength of a lord of heaven. What about you? Can't you grow up a little? He unintentionally made Lei Xingfeng hate him. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, Master, senior brother, Yuko's luck is not bad. He. But, senior brother, I don't agree with you going. When I went to the forbidden area, I always followed the ancestor. It was indeed very dangerous. If you go alone, the chances of you coming out alive are very low. When he called him senior brother, all of Yuko's anger dissipated. What a joke! Lei Xingfeng had the strength of a lord of heaven and didn't look down on him. He still called him senior brother, which made him feel very comfortable. He said, yes, I understand. Master, a Feng, if you go to the forbidden area in the future, you must bring me along. Lei Xingfeng laughed. I understand, senior brother. Yuko's face lit up with a smile. He sat down with satisfaction. Xian Zhaoluan said, me too. Qi Meiyin stared at Lei Xingfeng and said, a Feng. Lei Xingfeng bitterly smiled and said, Master, I'm being bullied again. The crowd burst into laughter. Gucci nodded, pleased. He knew that there were conflicts between the disciples, but once something happened, they would definitely band together. Lei Xingfeng was still united with his senior brothers and sisters. He didn't put on the airs of a senior, which made him even more popular. In this aspect, Feng Qinzong was much worse. Gucci said, also, bring your own subordinates and grow the necessary food. Although we brought a lot of food, it can only last for a few years. You must grow your own food to meet the needs. Now that the family has few people, even if you don't participate, you must let your subordinates do it. Everyone listlessly agreed. There was no helping it. In the past, no one would pay attention to small matters like growing food. Their subordinates had families from several villages. There were plenty of people who could grow food. They didn't need to worry at all. Now that these things fell on their heads, they didn't feel good. Yin Yao muttered, but we still have to cultivate. Time is tight. Miaoling shook her head. She did not know anything about farming. However, she decided to discuss this with Sister Hong. After all, she would not be able to grow food even if she starved to death. Lei Xingfeng said, this is also a forbidden area. Some places can still be explored. Of course, don't go to places with restrictions. Most of the restrictions here have collapsed, and many places have lost their protection. Everyone can look around. Maybe you can find something useful, and there are many resources here. This forbidden area occupied a large area, and there were many rare plants and minerals buried underground. These were all materials that could be collected. Everyone was instantly energized. Yuko's eyes lit up as he said, really? Lei Xingfeng said, why would I lie to you? It's true, and I will have Jingzia draw a map and mark out the danger zones. You can explore the other places. Xian Zhaoluan immediately smiled. That's good. This time, we can't go anywhere else. We can't even go to the places where the secret door opened before. Lei Xingfeng understood that due to the distance, normal secret doors could not be reached. Unlike the mirror world, there were many prerequisites to opening a secret door. It could not be used immediately. Only when one reached the Dao Lord level would it be easier to open a secret door. However, it still required a lot of Yin rings. Gucci said, that's good. Everyone, remember, don't go out for a while. And other than a Feng, everyone else needs my permission to go out. Lei Xingfeng was the only one who could leave the camp freely. He had a heavenly monarch-level bodyguard and was strong enough. Therefore, Gucci did not restrict him. This time, even Feng Qinzong sighed. He did not have the right to go out. Comparisons were odious. Gucci said, Junior Brother Foam, don't sigh. Your task is also very important. You need to set up a secret door. When we go out, we all have to set up a new one. On this continent, we can't just let the disciples run around. We need to find suitable mines and collect resources. We need to go through a secret door. The biggest advantage of a secret door was that it could be used to travel across the continent. Only true monarchs, heavenly monarchs, and Tao Lord's secret doors could allow the disciples to collect resources. Of course, once the resources were collected, a certain amount must be given to the secret door. At the same time, a portion must be left for the secret door. Therefore, every secret door had its own shared resources that were collected by the disciples. Gucci said, there is one more thing you need to pay attention to. There are many secret doors that lead to outer space. There will be more and more people moving around here, and more disputes. Remember, once you start fighting, do not leave behind any hidden dangers. Also, if you can't beat them, run. I didn't ask you to fight with your lives on the line. Of course, now is not the time for you to go out. Just remember my warning. After a few more words of advice, Gucci let everyone leave. He left Lei Xingfeng behind. Lei Xingfeng watched the others leave and smiled. Master, what's the matter? Gucci said seriously, a foam. In the future, you will be a high-ranking member of the secret door. There are some things that I can tell you. Lei Xingfeng immediately straightened his back. Master, please tell me. Gucci said, our secret door used to be very powerful. However, 100 years ago, it split. Your ancestor took me and established the current secret door. Lei Xingfeng said, split. Gucci said, that's right. It's also about migration. They have already crossed outer space and went to other places. At that time, your ancestor, Wu Yang, tried his best to oppose it. Unfortunately, ancestor Wu Yang's master didn't agree and directly drove your ancestor out of the secret door. At that time, your ancestor was still a beginner heaven monarch. In a fit of anger, he took me and established another secret door. If the original sect was still around, our strength would be much more than what it is now. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, where did they go? Gucci said, at that time, they took a very strong secret door. They took another route and also passed through outer space to enter another world. Well, it's not the Dawn continent. I don't know where it is exactly. Lei Xingfeng said, is that so? Is it the same as the migration of the secret door? Gucci said, your ancestor and I discussed it for a long time. In the end, we had to admit that we were wrong. Therefore, your ancestor was very determined to migrate this time. The original place is really not suitable for cultivation. That place is destined to decline. Lei Xingfeng said, that is to say, my ancestor wants to follow in his master's footsteps. Gucci shook his head. It's not to follow in his footsteps. It's to leave the original continent. We have been sealed for too long. Lei Xingfeng said thoughtfully, if the cultivators don't catch this train, they will be completely finished. Gucci nodded. Although the migration this time can't compare to the one 100 years ago, 80% of the secret doors have been moved. If we can find a suitable place, we might even have to give up on the secret hidden space. It will be difficult for us to survive in the future. The secret treasure space could be changed. However, if the distance was too far, it could not be opened. This was because the location of the secret treasure space was fixed. It could not be moved to a distant continent. Once all the people in the secret door left, the secret treasure space would be completely abandoned, just like the Forbidden Lands and Forbidden Lands. In other words, Gucci and the others could still use the secret treasure space. However, when the entire secret door migrated again, They would basically give up the original secret treasure space. This was the difference between giving up and getting. In order to get something, one had to give it up. Lei Xingfeng said, "The people in the Forbidden Lands and Forbidden Lands of this world probably made the same choice as us. What's interesting is that they didn't leave anyone behind. They actually migrated all of them." Gucci said, "Once 90% of the people decide to leave, it will be very difficult for the rest to stay. Even if they stay in a dangerous place, the development of the clan will be stagnant. After shrinking to a certain extent, extinction is inevitable. Those secret doors that were left behind do not dare to take the risk of migrating. Their final outcome will not be good." Lei Xingfeng said, "Then this is not the destination." Gucci said, "This was never the destination. The Dawn continent is also not the destination. They are both springboards. This place is not suitable for survival." Lei Xingfeng said, "The resources here are quite good. Why is it not suitable for survival?" Gucci said, "Without a foundation, there is no possibility of development. We will first recuperate and strengthen here. Then we will make a decision. Perhaps we will kill our way back to the Dawn continent. Perhaps we will find another continent. Of course, we will not return to our original place." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "If we can find a cultivation technique in the Forbidden Lands, perhaps we can increase the overall strength of the secret doors." Gucci said, "It is very difficult to find a cultivation technique in the Forbidden Lands. After many years of hard work, generally speaking, finding a crystal is considered a great harvest. Finding the star python record, no matter what is recorded, is a good thing. As for cultivation techniques, they are very rare. Even if they are found, they are kept a secret." Lei Xingfeng was very clear as to why it was kept a secret. If it was made public, it would mean a series of fights and massacres. Lei Xingfeng nodded. He did not say anything. Instead, he quietly looked at Gucci. Gucci continued, "A phone, take me to the magnetic storm mountain range." Lei Xingfeng straightforwardly said, "No problem. We will go tomorrow. Who else wants to go?" He already knew that he had obtained the cultivation technique of the magnetic storm mountain range. No matter if it was his master or the founder, they would all ask to see it. Gucci revealed a gratified smile. In fact, he was also a little nervous. If Lei Xingfeng refused, he could not force him to ask for the cultivation technique. Moreover, it would leave behind some bad thoughts. This was also the reason why he hesitated. Lei Xingfeng did not care at all about the cultivation technique engraved on the wall. He would not refuse anyone who wanted to see it. The lightning cultivation technique was too special. People of other attributes would not be able to cultivate according to it. However, he knew that with Gucci or Wu Yang's strength, they might be able to figure out some of the cultivation secrets. Even if they could not learn the cultivation method, they could still inspire some thoughts of cultivation. Lei Xingfeng did not want to expose the mirror realm unless it was absolutely necessary. This thing was too attractive. He did not want to use the mirror realm to test his master's bottom line. If it provoked some kind of greed, he did not dare to imagine what would happen to him. One must know that he had already regarded the entire secret door as his home. He would not be able to bear it if his home was destroyed. Chapter 4:20. In his previous life, due to greed, friends were separated, and there were even tragedies where families were destroyed. He had seen many of them. The advantage of information technology was that you could see everything. Here, however, it was different. The information was blocked, and the people were relatively simple. Even so, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to probe. If the results were bad, he wouldn't be able to accept it. Gucci smiled. "All right, I'll go alone." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Then I'll go back and prepare." After bidding farewell and returning to his simple house, the blackbird flew up from the table and landed on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder. It didn't follow him just now. Gao Yi sat on a chair and smiled. Are you going to the magnetic storm mountain range? Lei Xingfeng nodded. Yes, how did you know? Gao Yi smiled. If I were your sex elder, I would have the same request. Lei Xingfeng said, any cultivation technique is precious. No wonder Master wants to see it. Gao Yi was surprised. You don't care? Lei Xingfeng said, why should I care? If Master can comprehend something from it, it will be of great benefit to our hidden sect. If Master's strength increases, then the entire hidden sect strength will increase. We are a group. Gao Yi agreed. That's right. He hesitated for a moment, then said, Afeng, do you remember what I said? I once obtained an incomplete cultivation technique. Xianfeng spoke. I know. He suddenly realized that what Gao Yi obtained was not an incomplete training technique, but a complete one. The reason why he said that was because he didn't understand the words here, but the Star Python record itself had some sort of mystical ability that allowed the reader to understand. But because of the language, Gao Yi was unable to completely understand the records of the Star Python record. I understand, Lei Xingfeng said with certainty. Gao Yi smiled bitterly and said, You're really smart. That's right, I got a complete cultivation method. And it's a basic cultivation method. It's not an elemental cultivation method, but a method that most people can cultivate. Maybe the people in the Forbidden Lands don't care about it, but for us cultivators, it's very important. Lei Xingfeng suddenly laughed and said, Ha, Uncle Gao, I can solve your problem. Gao Yi was silent for a moment, then said, Actually, I know. When I saw your cultivation advance by leaps and bounds, I understood that you must understand the characters here. Lei Xingfeng said, Yes, I know. Gao Yi said, I only have one condition. You can teach the contents of the Star Python record to your family, but you can't teach it to your sect. Lei Xingfeng understood Gao Yi's thoughts. He was Lei Xingfeng's guest elder, not his sect's guest elder. So he had no obligation to teach it to Lei Xingfeng's sect. Yi could go to the magnetic storm mountain range to cultivate, but his sister couldn't. He could give the cultivation method of the Star Python record to his sister. He said, Okay, deal. Gao Yi took out the Star Python record and said, Here you go. Lei Xingfeng didn't look at it and directly said, Jingzia, you translate. Gao Yi suddenly slapped his head and said, AI, I'm such an idiot. When I got this Star Python record, why didn't I find a puppet? Ayaya, I'm such an idiot. The blackbird wanted to agree with him, but it also knew that not only would it not please Gao Yi, but it would also accidentally offend him. So it didn't dare to speak and just cawed twice. Gao Yi said, Birdbude, what are you laughing at? The blackbird immediately said, This bird is happy for you. You finally solved the problem. Caw. Gao Yi said with a smile, Yes, it's finally solved. He was very happy because this meant that his strength might soar again. Jingzia took the cultivation method and asked curiously, How did you find this cultivation method? This cultivation method. Gao Yi was a little nervous. Is this not good? Jingzia said, It's not bad. This cultivation method is better than the basic cultivation method. It can be regarded as an advanced cultivation method, and it's a cultivation method unique to the forbidden area. People of any attribute can cultivate it. Afeng can also cultivate it. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, I can use it too? Jingzia said, Of course you can, but you already have an exclusive cultivation method, so you don't need it. The exclusive attribute cultivation method is much stronger than this one. Lei Xingfeng said, Are there many exclusive cultivation methods? Jingzia said, How could there be many? Exclusive cultivation methods are the most difficult to get. Who would teach them to the core disciples of the forbidden area, and those kinds of cultivation methods are rarely circulated. If Lei Xingfeng hadn't found the cultivation method engraved on the wall, it would have been impossible for him to get an exclusive thunder attribute cultivation method. Jingzia said, "Why are you giving me a cultivation method?" Lei Xingfeng said, "This is not for you. I want you to translate it." Jingzia said, "How do I translate it?" Before Lei Xingfeng could speak, Gao Yi was anxious. He said, "Can't you translate it?" Jingzia said lightly, "Of course." Gao Yi was confused, but Lei Xingfeng understood. He immediately took out a star python record and said, "Here." Jingzia stared at Gao Yi and said, "You're so stupid." Then she picked up the star python record and began to translate it, and transferred the translated content to another star python record. Gao Yi was stunned. In his life, except for his enemies, no one had ever called him stupid, but he couldn't get angry. The black bird cawed twice again. Gao Yi suddenly felt that it was very ear-piercing. He stared at the black bird and said, "What are you laughing at?" The black bird said, "Sir, this bird suddenly thought of a very interesting thing and couldn't help laughing. Caw." Gao Yi said, "Oh, what interesting thing? Tell me." The black bird said happily, "Sir, do you really want to hear it?" Gao Yi said, "Speak." The black bird said, "Sir, this bird is too excited. Do you really want to listen to this bird's story? Sir, you're not lying to this bird, are you?" Lei Xingfeng knew that the black bird was starting to make trouble. Gao Yi said, "Speak." The black bird said, "Sir, you're too good. You're actually willing to listen to this bird's story. This bird is so happy." Gao Yi's face was full of black lines. He already understood that the black bird was doing it on purpose. He said coldly, "Speak." The black bird trembled and said, "Sir, you're so scary. So you don't want to hear it. This bird won't speak. I won't speak." As it said that, it directly hit its head in its wings, and its body leaned on Lei Xingfeng's neck, pretending to be dead. Lei Xingfeng said, "Bird Butte has always been like this. Don't worry about it." Gao Yi laughed and said, "This bird is too clever." The black bird quickly stretched out its head and said, "Thank you for the compliment." Then it buried its head back in its wings and continued to pretend to be dead. It really didn't dare to offend Gao Yi. Gao Yi was amused. He said, "This cultivation method came about by chance. Back then, when I was searching a collapsed house, there were 2 skeletons in the room. It was obvious that the 2 of them had perished together." Lei Xingfeng was suddenly very curious. He said, "Revenge? Or was it for this star python record?" Jingzia curled her lips and said, "It definitely wasn't for this star python record." Gao Yi said, "Why?" Jingzia said, "The disciples in the forbidden area can obtain this cultivation method as long as they reach a certain level. Do you think they would kill each other for this? It was probably some kind of grievance that caused them to fight in the chaos. The 2 probably didn't expect that they would die together. This star python record is probably something that hasn't been collected yet. You took advantage of it." Jingzia was quite familiar with this kind of cultivation method. Although she didn't know how to cultivate, it didn't prevent her from understanding it. She quickly translated the star python record and recorded it on another star python record. Then she handed it to Gao Yi and said, "Well, this cultivation method isn't complicated. It's not as good as a Feng's thunder cultivation method." Gao Yi ignored Jingzia's sarcasm and excitedly took the star python record. He couldn't wait to read it. Jingzia said, "Afong, do you have any more star python records?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, I have a lot of star python records." Then he took out a star python record and handed it to Jingzia. Jingxia quickly recorded the contents in the star python record and said, "Okay, here you go." Lei Xingfeng also picked up the two ends of the star python record. The cultivation contents quickly appeared. Not only could this thing be seen with the eyes, but it could also be connected to one's mind. It was very easy to understand the recorded contents. In just a few hours, Lei Xingfeng read it once. This cultivation method was different from Lei Xingfeng's. Of course, it wasn't a thunder cultivation method, but other cultivation methods. It felt more refined. Cultivation didn't pay attention to attributes, but focused on internal and external cultivation. It could be cultivated from external to internal. It was very strange and wonderful. There were many offensive and defensive methods, which were quite interesting and enlightening for him. Gao Yi finished reading a while earlier. Many things that he didn't understand before suddenly became clear. His whole person began to change. One had to know that this cultivation method had fallen into his hands for a long time. Moreover, he forcibly cultivated according to his own understanding. There were many parts that were wrong. However, his luck was not bad. The general direction of cultivation wasn't wrong. This gave him a chance to remedy it. Gao Yi said, "A Feng, I want to go into seclusion to cultivate." Lei Xingfeng said, "No problem. However, you have to send me and Master to the magnetic storm mountain range tomorrow. Wait for us to come back. Then you can cultivate." Gao Yi nodded and said, "Okay, I will ponder over it for a few days and make more preparations. With this star python record, I believe, my strength will rise by a lot." An excited expression appeared on his face. His cultivation had been stagnant for a long time because his cultivation wasn't precise enough. Many things relied on experience and luck. He cultivated very recklessly, leaving behind a considerable amount of hidden dangers. This time, he should be able to solve them. This reward was too great. Back then, the reason why Gao Yi wanted to join had not been because of the problem of cultivation. He had purely wanted to find a home, a place that he could rely on. After living alone for so many years, he had grown tired of it. He hoped that there would be someone to talk to, someone to be close to. However, he had not expected that the problem that had troubled him the most was solved. His mood instantly became extremely good. Lei Xingfeng took Gao Yi and Jingxia directly into the mirror world. Chapter 421. Back at home in the mirror realm, everyone was there. Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment, then took out the star python record. After thinking for a while, he left a few cultivation methods in the record. They were all simple tricks he learned from Gao Ye's cultivation method. He first showed it to Gao Yi. "What do you think?" Gao Yi read it carefully and recorded some of his thoughts. "You take a look as well. What's the problem?" Lei Xingfeng read it again and couldn't help but praise, "Uncle Gao is so thoughtful." "You can pass it on to them," Gao Yi said. Lei Xingfeng then said, "Uncle Jean, Uncle Ling, Uncle Tiger, take this cultivation method and study it. Then pass it on selectively. Yes, at least until you have 6 true ring bodies. There's no way for those with lower cultivation. Actually, even those with 6 true ring bodies could only use a small part of it. Those with 9 true ring bodies could use more, and most of it would be helpful." Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't need to worry. This kind of thing could be left to Jean Daya and the other two. He trusted them very much, and they were like family to him. There was no need to keep it a secret. Lei Xingfeng said, "Give Fatty one too." "Yes, give Hong Chun and Yen one too." Gao Yi said, "Even if they get this cultivation method, it'll be hard for them to change much. Using yin rings to cultivate. I wonder who came up with it. They're so eager for quick success." Jean Daya objected. "Senior, you can't say that. With een rings, people like us who find it hard to cultivate can reach 9 true ring. Without een rings, I would have died a long time ago. Mad Eagle also said, we don't have amazing talent. This method is the most suitable. Gao Yi laughed and said, all right, let's just pretend I didn't say anything. He also knew that what he had said was inappropriate. Jean Depang came in with a group of people, carrying a large amount of food, as usual. He laughed and said, time to eat. Ha! Today we have something good. We killed a wild bull. This thing is really delicious. I made a few dishes for everyone to try. Everyone nodded. Blackbird said, birds, do you have it? Lei Xingfeng said, didn't you just eat? The blackbird said, I'm not full. If you don't feed the bird, then you kill the bird. Xian Feng spoke. What nonsense are you talking about? Jean Depang said, yes, I've prepared it for you. Blackbird jumped onto the table and said, I knew Fatty was a good person. I didn't forget the bird. Jean Depang actually felt flattered. He smiled and said, here you go. He took out a plate of fresh meat and placed it in front of the black horse. Eat. Gao Yi had a deep impression of Jean Depang's cooking. When he was alone, although he wasn't hungry, he couldn't eat well. After tasting Jean Depang's cooking, he had become an admirer of Jean Depang's food. Therefore, he was very polite to Jean Depang. Jean Depang's craftsmanship was endless, and he had all kinds of methods, especially Xian Feng, who had taught him before. Of course, Xian Feng was just talking about it. It was all based on his experience from his previous life. Frying, steaming, and all kinds of other methods were brought to light by Jean Depang's hands. For a single ingredient, Jean Depang could cook it in tens of different ways. The ingredients in this world were incomparable to those in Lei Xingfeng's previous life. There were too many, and every continent had different products. Moreover, the stomachs of cultivators were really abnormal. Some ordinary people might have died after eating, but they could absorb and digest it very well. Their appetite was huge, so eating became a rare enjoyment. The next day, Lei Xingfeng brought Gao Yi and Jingxia to Guqi's residence. Gao Yi opened the secret door, and Guqi, Lei Xingfeng, and Jingxia entered. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the periphery of the magnetic storm mountain range. Guqi looked at the mountain range in the distance. Countless bolts of lightning streaked across the sky, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Even though they were still quite far away, the thunder rumbled like a drum. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and said, This is really terrifying. Gao Yi said, even I don't dare to go in. This place is too dangerous for those who aren't thunder attribute cultivators. Guqi said, how far is it from your cultivation place? Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, it's not very far. We can get there in about half a day. Let's go. I know a very safe path that can't be hit by lightning. Guqi said, okay, let's go. This time, Gao Yi didn't leave. Instead, he followed Lei Xingfeng and rushed towards the magnetic storm mountain range. Soon, Lei Xingfeng found the crack. Guqi said in shock, This isn't natural. Gao Yi was similarly shocked. How much power did it take to open up such a crack? Lei Xingfeng said, if it wasn't for this crack, I wouldn't have been able to find the way in. It would have been impossible to climb up this mountain. After finding the crack that led to the platform, Lei Xingfeng took the lead and walked in front. Even in the belly of the mountain, the rumbling thunder was still deafening. Even though Guqi was a peak, true monarch, he still felt scared. This was the power of natural lightning. Its power was not something that humans could compare with. Guqi said, what a terrifying place. Following the crack, they came to the slope. Above the slope was the platform. They could already see the dazzling light in the crack. Guqi was attracted by the metal particles on the ground. He reached out and picked up an egg-sized metal and said, "This is good stuff." Gao Yi also picked up a few pieces of metal and said, "It's really a good metal. If it's a metal-type cultivator, this is also a treasure." Lei Xingfeng said, "If we go up from here, there's a platform. Countless lightning strikes on it. If we want to see the cultivation technique, we have to go through that platform." Gucci quickly climbed up. After all, he was a true monarch expert. The lightning arcs jumping from the crack could not hurt him. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi followed closely to the crack. Gao Yi said, "Damn, such powerful lightning. I don't have the confidence to rush over. The lightning is too dense." Gucci's face sank. He didn't expect the lightning to be so terrifying and dense. The most important thing was that he didn't have the confidence to resist such powerful lightning. It must be known that the power of lightning could break through almost any element. Lei Xingfeng was already very familiar with this place. He said, "There's a pattern here. The lightning isn't always so dense. Sometimes it's a little sparse. As long as we can withstand a few lightning strikes, we can rush over and enter the room on the other side of the platform." Gucci stared at the platform. After a long while, he shook his head and said, "I can't go over." He had already felt the enormous power of the lightning. The most terrifying thing was that once the lightning struck, it would fix people in place. He had the confidence to resist a few lightning strikes, but he definitely didn't have the confidence to walk freely in the lightning. Gao Yi actually had a little confidence to pass, but he didn't want to take the risk. He wouldn't do something meaningless. Lei Xingfeng took out the lightning attribute cultivation technique. It was the cultivation technique translated by Jingxia. He said, "Master, I've already recorded it in the Star Python record. I'll give this to you." Gucci was overjoyed. He took the Star Python record and said with a smile, "If I had known, I wouldn't have come." While Gucci was reading carefully, Lei Xingfeng whispered to Gao Yi, "Give that cultivation experience to Master too." Gao Yi didn't expect Lei Xingfeng to be so generous. It was fine if it was for his own lineage, but he even wanted to give the sect a share. However, it was precisely because of this that he had the confidence to continue staying with Lei Xingfeng. At the very least, Lei Xingfeng was quite magnanimous. Gao Yi nodded slowly and said, "Okay." Lei Xingfeng was also very grateful. He said, "Uncle Gao, thank you." Gao Yi smiled slightly and didn't say anything. Gucci looked through it quickly. After roughly half an hour, he hurriedly browsed through it once. He said, "I can't use this cultivation technique, but it has inspired me, and it's very good. I have to take it back and carefully study it. It will be very helpful to me." Lei Xingfeng walked to Gucci's side and said, "Master, there's another one here, and it's some of Uncle Gao's cultivation experience." He could only use Gao Ye's name. Gucci said in surprise, "Oh, let me see." Lei Xingfeng took out another Star Python record. Gucci looked through it again. As there wasn't much content, he used 10 minutes to browse through it. The joy on his face couldn't be concealed. This Star Python record was completely different from the previous one. It contained some cultivation techniques and concepts. It was very helpful to him. He immediately said to Gao Yi, "This is great. Thank you, Senior Gao." He had no choice but to call Gao Yi Senior. With the identity of a heavenly monarch, he couldn't use Lei Xingfeng's name to interact with him as an equal. Gao Yi said indifferently, "You're welcome." He understood in his heart that this was Xian Feng's training method and concept. He had only perfected it a little. Of course, it was because of his perfecting that this Star Python record had such great use. Gucci observed the platform for a moment and finally gave up. He didn't bother about whether to go or not. This lightning was too abnormal. He said, "Okay, let's go back." As he spoke, he collected the metal particles on the ground. These things were already leftovers from Lei Xingfeng's selection, but even so, they were still very good materials. This was because there were some mutated metals in them. Gao Ye's hands and feet weren't slow either. He also collected quite a lot. Gucci said, "A phone. Why are you collecting them?" Lei Xingfeng laughed mischievously and said, "These are all leftovers from my selection." Gucci and Gao Yi were speechless. These were all good materials, and they were actually leftovers from Lei Xingfeng's selection. Gao Yi said, "I don't know if we can reach the depths of the magnetic storm mountain range. After all, this is the edge. If we can go deeper, I believe that there will be more metal materials." Lei Xingfeng said, "I only found this path. If we want to go deeper, we'll probably have to find another path." Gucci shook his head and said, "Something must have happened here. That's why there's an extra path. Even if there's a path to other places, it's probably restricted." Gao Yi said, "It's not probably, it's definitely restricted." Jing Zia agreed and said, "The magnetic storm mountain range was originally a forbidden area. Even in our era, not just anyone could enter the magnetic storm mountain range. This is one of the most dangerous places. It's already very surprising that you can reach here." Chapter 422. Lei Xingfeng said, "In any case, I've succeeded in my cultivation. I have great resistance to the thunder and lightning here. Well, the most powerful thing here is the thunder and lightning. I believe that we will have a chance to go deeper." Jing Zia said straightforwardly, "You have a chance, but the others don't." In fact, Lei Xingfeng's greatest confidence lay in the mirror realm. With the mirror realm, he would have room to buffer. If the thunder and lightning were too strong, he could directly enter the mirror realm to avoid it. When he recovered, he could enter again. He was confident that he could go deeper. Gucci said, "As long as a phone can go deeper, we can forget about it. A phone, find more metal materials. The metals here are very good." Lei Xingfeng realized that for other cultivators, the metals here had been tempered by thunder and lightning. Naturally, their quality was different. They were much better than the ores excavated from other places. Those ores had to be refined before they could be obtained. Here, however, any random metal was good. In other words, as long as they could see and obtain the metal, they could take it. Lei Xingfeng couldn't use it himself, but it didn't mean that others couldn't. Not to mention, he had a large number of subordinates. The three of them and the puppet retreated all the way out of the crack. Soon, they arrived outside the magnetic storm mountain range. Gucci said, "Actually, this mountain range is made of metal. We can dig it." Jing Zia sneered and said, "If it could be dug, it would have been dug out long ago. Hee, if you don't believe me, you can try digging." Gucci didn't believe in heresy. He came to the side of the metal cliff and started digging. There was a thick layer of black material on the metal cliff. He didn't know what it was, but when Gucci dug through it, a huge electric current shot out and sent him flying 7 to 8 meters away. Jing Zia laughed and said, "Your strength is not bad, so you weren't killed. If it was someone else digging, they might have died here." Gucci looked at the metal cliff speechlessly and said, "Forget it. This place is very strange. I'd better not dig." This time, even Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi laughed. Gucci couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. We're all used to being poor. When we see something good, we don't want to let it go. Any metal here is a treasure in the past. Gao Yi nodded. "That's normal. I've lived here for so long, and it's indeed much better than my hometown. As long as you work hard, you'll never lack materials." The materials he mentioned were mostly used by cultivators at the true monarch level and above. In the past, it was extremely difficult to find these materials in his hometown. Gradually, they left the magnetic storm mountain range. This time, Gucci opened the secret door, and the group returned to the camp. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi said their goodbyes and returned. Gucci hugged the two-star Python records and went to study them. After returning to the simple and crude hut, Lei Xingfeng didn't delay and took Gao Yi and Jingxia back to the Mirror Realm. Gao Yi already had a residence in the Mirror Realm. He said, "A Feng, I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. If there's nothing important, don't call me." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "In a few days, I'll take people to the wilderness. We won't go to the forbidden area for the time being. We'll find some ordinary forbidden areas to play. When you're done cultivating, we'll explore the forbidden area." Gao Yi said, "Okay, with the Mirror Realm, I'm confident that I can explore the forbidden area. Maybe I'll find something good." He turned and left. He was already very familiar with the Mirror Realm. After resting for a few days, Lei Xingfeng directly opened the Mirror Realm's secret door and went to the magnetic storm mountain range. The most powerful thing about the Mirror Realm was that it ignored interference. For example, in the magnetic storm mountain range, neither Gao Yi nor Gucci would open the secret door because the interference here was too great. It was impossible to open the secret door to leave, but the Mirror Realm's secret door could. Therefore, Lei Xingfeng directly appeared in a room on the side of the platform. This time, he took Jingxia and the blackbird with him. As soon as the blackbird came out, it screamed, "Quack! Thunder! It's terrible!" Then it began to tremble violently. It was a bird of the thunder attribute, but its strength was too weak. It couldn't withstand such powerful thunder and lightning, even if it was outside the room. It screamed, "Bird, go home, go home. I'm scared to death." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh. This guy had pestered him endlessly and insisted on following them. As a result, it was so scared that it almost peed in its pants. Jingxia said coldly, "You can't even withstand this little thunder. You usually brag about how powerful you are, but it turns out that you're useless." The blackbird didn't have time to argue with Jingxia. It felt that its soul was about to scatter. It begged, "Master, Master, Master, please send me back." Lei Xingfeng saw that the blackbird was really going to die, so he hurriedly sent it back to the Mirror Realm. Jingxia said, "What a lousy bird." Lei Xingfeng said, "It's not that it's lousy. It's just that this place is too terrifying. Without a certain level of strength, you can't stand at all." Jingxia said, "Are you going to cultivate here?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "I don't need to cultivate for the time being. I want to see what it's like outside the platform." Even if Jingxia was a puppet, she couldn't help but be shocked. The edge of the platform was the area with dense thunder and lightning, which was the most dangerous place. She said, "Don't fall down. If you die here, I'll be miserable." Lei Xingfeng said, "Hey, can you put it nicely? It's not auspicious at all. I'm very lucky. I'll be fine." Jingxia said, "I hope so. If you don't come back, I'll be trapped in this room. I don't have the ability to pass the platform." There was a hint of pity in her tone. Lei Xingfeng could certainly hear the fear in her words. He said, "Why don't you go back to the Mirror Realm first?" Jingxia said resolutely, "No, I'll stay here and wait." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, don't worry. I'll be back." He promised again. No matter how unpleasant Jingxia's words were, he knew in his heart that Jingxia really cared about his life and death. Because of this, Lei Xingfeng didn't treat her as a puppet in his heart. Jingxia nodded and said, "I'll stay here and watch." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay." Only then did he release Lei Yin. He stepped out and walked onto the platform. In an instant, several bolts of lightning struck down. As the lightning struck down, the sound of thunder followed. Lei Xingfeng's body shook. A huge amount of electric current poured into Lei Yin, and Lei Yin immediately emitted a silver light. Jingxia watched Lei Xingfeng walk to the edge of the platform step by step, drowned in the endless lightning and thunder. This was an absolutely crazy method. Lightning strikes not only brought about damage, but also a berserk force. Xian Feng wasn't afraid of lightning. What he was afraid of was the large force of impact. Every strike required him to use a large amount of strength to stabilize himself. If he reached the edge of the platform and lost his balance, he would fall from the platform. Who knew how deep the platform was? Lei Xingfeng squatted down and slowly moved to the edge of the platform. At this time, the lightning was getting denser and denser. He was now completely relying on Lei Yin to protect himself. The surface of his body was covered with layers of illusory shadows of Qinya silver. This thing's defensive power was really amazing. Once the shadow was broken, other shadows would quickly replace it, and then more would be condensed. As long as the body of Qinya silver was not broken, the shadows would continue to appear, one after another. Jingxia watched expressionlessly. On the surface, she looked as if nothing had happened, but her hands were tightly clenched. Lei Xingfeng leaned against the edge of the platform and looked down. This was a sight he would never forget for the rest of his life. The huge lightning in the sky struck down like a huge upside-down tree. Countless lightning forked and covered the entire mountain range. Among them, there were a few small lightning bolts that rushed towards the platform where Lei Xingfeng was. The lightning that struck the platform was as thick as a bucket. One could imagine how huge the main lightning was. Then, Xian Feng saw the densely packed platforms on the metal cliff with his eyes. There were at least 100 of them, stacked on top of each other. At the bottom, there was a metal platform that was 10 meters high. Every time the main lightning struck from the sky, it would strike this platform. This platform was actually flashing with a faint blue light. Every time the lightning struck it, the entire platform seemed to become transparent, looking incomparably magical. Lei Xingfeng did not dare to stay for too long and carefully retreated. After returning to the room at the side of the platform, Lei Xingfeng sat on the ground and gasped for breath. Jingxia asked, "What's there?" Actually, she was also very curious. In her era, lightning cultivators had always been very mysterious. Their strength was extraordinary, and the magnetic storm mountain range was even more famous. It was just that no one knew what was in the magnetic storm mountain range. Lei Xingfeng said, "Below, there is a very big platform that protrudes from the ground. Also, below our platform, there are many other platforms, many of them." Jingxia muttered to herself, "There really is a lightning god platform. I thought it was just a legend." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "What did you say? What lightning god platform?" Jingxia said, "In my era, there was a saying that there was a lightning god platform in the magnetic storm mountain range. If someone could go through the baptism of this lightning god platform, then that person's strength would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. If they could survive, then they would become a godlike expert. Of course, they had to survive first. Therefore, later on, this lightning god platform was called the lightning god platform. It was just a rumor, and the majority of people did not really believe that there was such a lightning god platform." Lei Xingfeng thought of the lightning that struck down and could not help but shiver. He said, "Lightning god platform? That place is not somewhere we can go. I reckon that before we could go up, we would be struck by lightning and turned into ashes." Jingxia nodded and said, "Yes, even the Almighty of our era did not dare to enter the magnetic storm mountain range. In this place, other than lightning cultivators, no one else can. No, that's not right. No one dares to enter." Lei Xingfeng was in a daze for a while. He was thinking if he could go up the lightning god platform, then maybe he would become the lightning god very quickly. He woke up and sighed. Lightning God? If I go up, then I'll become the gray god. Anything that went too far was as bad as not enough. Lei Xingfeng believed that it was completely impossible for him to resist that main lightning. That lightning looked abnormal and was not something he could resist at his current level. However, his thoughts had already turned to the other platforms, thinking about how to enter the platforms below. Chapter 4:23. Should he fly down the cliff or climb down? Several ideas flashed through his mind, but they were immediately rejected by Lei Xingfeng. It was too dangerous, and he was not sure whether the restriction would attack him or not. By now, Lei Xingfeng was very sure that the entire magnetic storm mountain range was under a very powerful restriction. If he broke in recklessly, he would probably die here. He might not even have time to enter the mirror world. After all, the lightning attack was the fastest. No, Lei Xingfeng suddenly realized that he had come to this platform through the crack. This was not the normal way. Although there were several stairs on the slope of the crack, he believed that they were made later. In other words, when the platform and the room were built, this crack should not have existed. Then there must be another way to enter this room and the platform outside. Lei Xingfeng suddenly stood up and began to knock along the metal wall of the room. Jingxia looked at Lei Xingfeng curiously and asked, "What are you doing?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm looking for the entrance and exit. There must be one here." Jingxia said, "Isn't there?" "Oh, I see." She was not stupid. In an instant, she realized that the crack was not the normal way in and out. After knocking around, Lei Xingfeng was surprised to find that there seemed to be something solid behind the wall. Jingxia also checked it. She shook her head and said, "It seems that there is no way out." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "If there is no exit in the room, then it must be on the cliff of the platform." Since the platform was long, it was not surprising that the entrance and exit were on the cliff. The crack was at the other end of the platform, so the regular entrance and exit might be in the middle. Jingxia said, "Go ahead." She did not dare to go on the platform. Lei Xingfeng went to the platform and carefully checked along the cliff. Soon he came back and said, "It's strange. There is no trace of an entrance and exit at all." Jingxia said, "This place can't have appeared out of thin air. Well, by the way, you can try attack the wall with lightning." Although Xian Foam didn't understand what Jingxia meant, he still shot a bolt of lightning at the wall. In an instant, the entire wall was covered with jumping lightning arcs. With a kacha sound, a door appeared on the metal wall. Jingxia stared blankly. She had just said it casually because some restrictions needed to be touched, and restrictions had all kinds of functions. The restriction here was to open the door. Of course, it could only be touched by lightning. This was the place for cultivators of the lightning attribute. Lei Xingfeng said excitedly, "Ha ha, Jingxia, you're a genius." This was a 2-meter tall and 1-meter wide door. There was no door, only a passageway. The entire passageway was bright, and the walls emitted a very bright white light. It was a very uniform light, as if there were fluorescent lights behind frosted glass. However, it still felt cold to the touch. Jingxia said, "I'll scout ahead." Lei Xingfeng followed her and said, "I'll go first. I'm a thunder practitioner, so I should be safe here." Jingxia hesitated for a moment and said, "Let's go side by side." She believed that if there was a destructive restriction, she should be able to block it. As long as she could block it, Lei Xingfeng could save her into the mirror world. Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's go." The two of them walked forward side by side. It was very peaceful along the way, and there were no restrictions. This was a very winding passage, which generally led downwards. After a while, they came to a fork in the road. A wider passage appeared, which was at least twice as wide as the one they came from before. After walking for a few minutes along the big passage, they saw another passage, which was the same size as the one they came from before. Lei Xingfeng said, "I see this big passage is connected to many small passages, and the small passages should be the way to enter the platform." Jing Zia said, "Let's go and have a look." Lei Xingfeng turned into the small passage and went all the way forward. Soon, they came to the end. This time, without Jing Zia's reminder, Lei Xingfeng directly struck a lightning bolt, and the door opened in an instant. Sure enough, it was another resting space, and the platform was outside. The rumbling thunder immediately shook people's souls. Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia walked in, and the passage behind them suddenly disappeared, quietly. The whole layout of the room was exactly the same as the previous one, and the walls were engraved with various characters and patterns. Lei Xingfeng knew at a glance that the contents were the same. There was also a round pool in the middle of the room, and the thunder plasma in it was about to overflow. Xian Feng immediately revealed a smile, without mentioning anything else. Just this pool of lightning liquid plasma was worth it. Jing Zia couldn't help sighing. What a waste! It's about to overflow. I don't know how long it will take to gather so much thunder plasma. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "It's all mine." Ha ha. Jing Zia was basically a poker face. When she heard Lei Xingfeng's loud laughter, the corners of her mouth slightly curled up, but it was quite stiff. Lei Xingfeng didn't care about anything else. He first took out the bottle he had made and started to collect the thunder plasma. There were several ways to collect the thunder plasma. Using a container was the simplest. The more complicated way was to use a small restriction to condense the thunder plasma out of thin air and form a silver ball. Lei Xingfeng had already learned this method. However, because there was a lot of thunder plasma in this pool, he directly stored it in a container and sealed it with a small restriction. After half an hour, the thunder plasma in the pool was swept clean. Lei Xingfeng smacked his lips and said, "I guess there's a pool like this in every room, hee hee." Jing Zia said, "Judging from the situation, there should be. If it doesn't overflow." Lei Xingfeng immediately understood. He immediately walked out, released a thunderbolt, and quickly walked into the passage. Thunder plasma was extremely destructive. Once it overflowed, the whole room would probably be destroyed. Lei Xingfeng quickly found the next room and platform. There was also a pool of thunder plasma, which almost overflowed. Lei Xingfeng said, "It seems that we came in time. Maybe if we came a decade later, this place would have been destroyed." Jing Zia said, "The person who built this pool probably didn't expect that this pool could be filled with thunder plasma." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, it takes a month to accumulate 1 drop of thunder plasma. I really don't know how long this pool of thunder plasma will take. I guess that the people who originally cultivated here had to prepare some thunder plasma in advance. The pool here is just a supplement." Jing Zia said, "Well, I heard that thunder plasma is very rare. I didn't expect that so much of it could be accumulated here." Lei Xingfeng quickly took out a container to store the thunder plasma and cleaned it up in a moment. He looked at the wall and saw that the content engraved on it was still the elementary thunder cultivation method he had obtained. Only then did he leave the room and re-enter the passage. The common method to unlock the door was a bolt of lightning. Xian Feng had asked Jing Zia to open the door and used all kinds of methods, but it still didn't budge. Jing Zia couldn't help but shake her head. This restriction was too abnormal. As the entire magnetic storm mountain range was constantly struck by lightning, the restriction here had an endless amount of energy. If one didn't use the correct method to unlock it, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. In other words, This place was actually a very safe place. Of course, this safety was only for lightning-attributed practitioners. Lei Xingfeng searched continuously. In a few days, he had basically run through all the platforms on the cliff of this mountain. 2 of the rooms had been completely destroyed by the overflowing thunder plasma. Most of the other rooms were pools that were about to overflow. In the end, the containers in his hands were all used up. He could only use small restrictions to collect the thunder plasma. He had no choice but to collect it, because once it overflowed, the rooms would be completely destroyed. Of course, the pools would also cease to exist. On one of the platforms, Lei Xingfeng saw that on the opposite side of the mountain, there were 7 rather large platforms on the cliff facing him. They were several times larger than the small platforms he was on. He could see that the thunder and lightning striking down were also thick and dense. Lei Xingfeng judged that it must be a higher-level place for cultivation. He immediately became excited. After collecting the thunder plasma, Lei Xingfeng came to this platform again and observed it carefully. After a long while, he returned to the room and discussed with Jingzia. He said, "There are more platforms on the opposite side. They are bigger than this one, but there are much fewer of them. There are only 7 platforms, and the thunder and lightning are denser. I think it is a higher-level place for cultivation." Jingzia couldn't see the opposite side. She didn't even dare to stretch her head out. The door was full of jumping electric arcs. Once she appeared on the platform, the thunder and lightning would definitely kill her. Well, it should be a higher-level place for cultivation. There should also be cultivation methods. But how can we get there? Lei Xingfeng said, "There should be a passage that can lead to it." Jingzia said, "We went to so many places just now. If there is a passage that can lead to it, it should be the biggest one. We haven't found the top yet." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, let's go and find it." They followed the small passage to the big one. After walking for about an hour, they arrived at a metal hall. This place was different from the place where thunder and lightning were needed to open the passage. They could clearly see that there were 2 paths and an open door, left or right. Lei Xingfeng pointed to the passage and asked. Jingzia said, "Left." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's go." The 2 of them went down the passage. The passage was not long. They reached the bottom in 10 minutes. This was a passage that led downwards. Lei Xingfeng skillfully struck out a thunder and lightning. In an instant, a door opened, and the 2 of them walked out. Standing outside, Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but smile bitterly and say, "This is the passage that leads out." He had already arrived at the outside of the magnetic storm mountain range. Because Jingzia was still standing at the entrance of the passage was not closed. Lei Xingfeng just took a look and retreated. He said, "Let's go. Take the other path." As soon as Lei Xingfeng retreated into the passage, he heard someone shout, "Stop!" From afar, a figure was running towards them at an extremely fast speed. Lei Xingfeng pulled Jingzia back quickly. He was facing the outside and walking backward, so he could clearly see the person's appearance. In a very short time, the person rushed to a place more than 100 meters away from the door and watched the door at the bottom of the cliff close. Chapter 424. That man shouted, "Come out!" Lei Xingfeng pulled Jingzia and retreated quickly. He didn't know how to close the portal, but he knew that once they left it, it would disappear quickly. Boom! That man punched out, and a ball of fire flew out and rushed towards the portal. At this moment, the portal suddenly disappeared, and the ball of fire hit the cliff and ignited a raging flame. After the portal disappeared, that man attacked the cliff crazily. He didn't expect that after a few attacks, countless thunderbolts suddenly struck down. That man screamed and turned to run. However, the thunderbolts seemed to have locked onto him and attacked him continuously. That man roared continuously. The thunderbolts only stopped when he retreated 1,000 meters away. That man looked at the cliff with hatred and waved his fist unwillingly. He said, "I don't believe that you won't come out. Someone can actually enter the magnetic storm mountain range. No, I have to find someone to guard it." Lei Xingfeng clearly saw that man's appearance. This man was dressed like a savage, and he was obviously an expert who stayed here. With Lei Xingfeng's current vision, this man was at least a heaven monarch, and he might even be a peak heaven monarch. He didn't want to fight with a peak heaven monarch. Of course, he wasn't afraid either. He could ask Gao Yi to come out at any time. With his strength, Gao Yi and Jing Zia, he believed that even if they couldn't kill Fang Chong, they could at least drive him away. Jing Zia said, "Your enemy?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "No, I don't know him." Jing Zia asked curiously, but why did that man attack you?" Although she was very smart, she didn't come into contact with the dangers outside. Since she was created, she had been guarding the forbidden area, so she didn't know about the sinister human nature outside. Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Just the fact that we can enter the magnetic storm mountain range is enough to make him want to catch us. However, this man is too impatient. If he wasn't so fierce and showed a kind look, we might have been fooled. As long as we get close, we will be in a passive position." Jing Zia said, "We don't need to be afraid of him." Lei Xingfeng said, "Of course. However, if we can avoid a life and death struggle, we should try our best to avoid it. This is a treasure land. I don't want to fight here, and the restriction of the magnetic storm mountain range will definitely attack that man." Jing Zia said, "Let's go back and see where the other path leads." Xian Feng quickly threw that person to the back of his mind. He wasn't worried that the other party would block his way back. He didn't plan to leave from this path. With the mirror world, leaving was a simple matter. With his intelligence, he knew that this person would definitely be waiting outside. He couldn't help but laugh coldly. "You can just wait there." Jing Zia was quite smart. As she walked, she said, "Will that person be guarding outside?" That man's why he said. Of course, he to us too. He, S to him, to us, he to stay. He, is that he? He is of course, of course. Of course to him. He, of course. He, as he. Jing Zia said, "Then let him stay here until the end of time." Lei Xingfeng staggered a step. These words were too powerful. He said, "Yes, let him stay here until the end of time." Ha! Soon, the two of them returned to the metal hall and moved forward along another passage. The passages here were very neat. They used the shortest path to reach the furthest distance. This was also a downward passage, which was quite steep. Lei Xingfeng was still very surprised. He couldn't identify the material of the wall. Anyway, it had nothing to do with metal. However, it emitted an extremely bright light. Although the light was very bright, it was not dazzling. It was very comfortable. Along the way, Lei Xingfeng touched the wall from time to time. Sometimes he sighed with emotion. Jing Zia was puzzled and asked, "Why are you touching the wall?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "It's too advanced. It's incredible." Jing Zia was even more confused. She said, "What's too advanced? What do you mean?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I mean the material and light of the wall. I don't know how it was made." Jing Zia didn't know. She said, "There are many strange things about thunder cultivators. This should be a piece of cake." She had heard a lot of rumors, but she had never seen anything like it. This time, she followed Lei Xingfeng into the magnetic storm mountain range. She didn't feel strange like Lei Xingfeng. Soon, they reached the end of the passage. It was still sealed. Lei Xingfeng released a bolt of lightning as usual. In an instant, the door opened. The moment it opened, countless electric arcs poured in. At the same time, there was a loud explosion. Lei Xingfeng basically ignored the electric arcs, but the sound of thunder made Lei Xingfeng see stars. Jing Zia stepped back again and again. There was an obvious layer of transparent material on her body. Lei Xingfeng immediately activated his defense. Shadows of Thousand Leaves Silver appeared and immediately blocked the sound of the thunder. Lei Xingfeng patted his chest and said something. Jingxia said, "What?" She couldn't hear what Lei Xingfeng said at all. Lei Xingfeng waved his hand and motioned for Jingxia to step back. He slowly walked to the door. Countless electric arcs suddenly hit him. Soon, the electric arcs seemed to know that he was a thunder cultivator and quickly retreated. This created a spectacle. The jumping electric arcs automatically dispersed, revealing a small space. The electric arcs were like naughty puppies. Although they jumped around, they didn't pounce on him. Jingxia knew that if she went over, her body would definitely be fixed by the electric arcs. She said, "I can't keep up with you." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said loudly, "You stay here and wait. I'll go out and take a look." Jingxia nodded and stepped back until she was 7 or 8 meters away. She said, "Okay, I'll wait here." Lei Xingfeng nodded and stepped out. When Lei Xingfeng walked out of the door, all he saw was lightning. This was a world of lightning and thunder. He didn't leave the door, so the door was still wide open. Even with the protection of the Thousand Leaves Silver, he still felt dazzled. Everything in front of him was flashing. The ground was shaking even though it was made of metal. The ground shook with the explosion of the thunder. An incomparably huge pressure followed. Lei Xingfeng felt that he couldn't breathe. His whole body was trembling slightly. He knew that if he wasn't a thunder cultivator, even if he had the strength of a heaven monarch, he would probably be so shocked that he couldn't move. The only thought in his mind was that this place was so terrifying. All that was left on his retina were the afterimages of the lightning. After about 10 minutes, Lei Xingfeng gradually woke up. He shook his head hard to shake his mind. His eyes finally worked. He gradually saw everything around him. This sight made Lei Xingfeng feel that it was incomparably gorgeous. When the lightning struck down, it twisted like a snake and slashed down. What followed was the terrifying sound of thunder, which was enough to scare people out of their wits. If it wasn't for the defense of the Thousand Leaves Silver, and Lei Xingfeng being a thunder cultivator, let alone the lightning, just the sound of the thunder would be enough to shock people to death. Incomparable awe and trembling. This was the true face of the lightning. The lightning he saw before was really weak. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to take a step forward. He just stood at the entrance of the door and stared blankly at the countless lightning bolts falling down. Slowly, he began to check the terrain. There was no way to fly to the other side. There was a tall metal platform not far away, which attracted a lot of lightning and thunder. He didn't know what the metal platform was made of. It was not damaged by such fierce lightning and thunder. It even emitted a faint blue light. When the huge lightning struck down, the whole metal platform would emit a dazzling brilliance. Even Lei Xingfeng couldn't stay here for too long. After observing for a few minutes, Lei Xingfeng returned to the passage. Jingxia said, "Is there a way to go there?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "I don't know. I don't dare to try it for the time being." Jingxia said, "This should be a pass. I don't know how those primary cultivators came here." Lei Xingfeng said, "They can come in directly from the outside. They shouldn't come here from this way. The lightning is too dense and powerful. I don't have the confidence to resist it at all." Jingxia said, "Then what should we do?" Lei Xingfeng said, "What else can we do? Let's go back first. We've gained a lot this time. We've made a lot of money by getting so much thunder liquid plasma." He didn't feel depressed at all. Instead, he said with joy, with so much thunder liquid plasma, he could use it for a long time and exchange it for a lot of materials. Jingzia said, "Okay, let's go back." She didn't have any ideas. Since Lei Xingfeng said they should go back, she just had to do it. Lei Xingfeng had set the coordinates of the mirror world to the metal hall, which was the transportation hub of the mountainside. He took Jingzia directly into the mirror world. A group of people were in the yard of the residence. When Jean Dia saw Lei Xingfeng appear with Jingzia, he asked, "How was the harvest this time?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Not bad, but someone found me in the magnetic storm mountain. They are probably waiting outside for us to go out." Ha ha. He laughed a little proudly. This kind of waiting was bitter. Anyway, he wouldn't go out from the bottom of the cliff again. Jean Dia certainly understood what was going on. He laughed and said, "This can't be done by waiting for a few years. Wait until you die." Ha! Everyone laughed. The black bird flew down and said, "What a pity. That place is absolutely helpful for birds." Ga, but the bird can't stay. The bird is so sad. It couldn't help but complain a little, but it didn't say anything unpleasant. Sometimes, this guy's words could really anger people to death. Lei Xingfeng said, "I brought you a gift." The black bird hugged its wings and said exaggeratedly, "Wow, wow. Ga, was this for real? You can't lie to a bird. I'm a pure bird. I'll believe anything you say." Gao Yi came out of the room and said, "A pure bird? Why do I feel that it's suspicious?" The black bird didn't dare to argue with Gao Yi. It said aggrievedly, "You can't question a pure bird like this. It will make the bird sad." Chapter 4:25. Gao Yi held back his laughter and said, all right, you are a pure and flawless bird." The black bird was finally satisfied. It cawed twice and stared at Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng smiled and took out a sealed thunder liquid plasma. There was only one drop of this sealed thunder liquid plasma. It was about the size of a pinky. It was crystal clear and flickered with a trace of silver light. Gao Yi was stunned at a glance. He said, This is the legendary thunder liquid plasma." Jingzia couldn't help but say, "Don't be so surprised." Actually, she had only seen thunder liquid plasma after following Lei Xingfeng. However, after seeing so much thunder liquid plasma, she was already numb to it. The black bird instinctively felt that this thing would be of great help to it. It flew up and landed on Lei Xingfeng's wrist. It looked at it eagerly and said, "Give it to the bird. Give it to the bird." Lei Xingfeng threw the sealed thunder liquid plasma into the air. The black bird pounced out like lightning and caught it with its mouth. It then quickly swallowed it. Of course, the black bird didn't have the ability to undo the seal. However, it could absorb the thunder liquid plasma bit by bit and improve its body bit by bit. This thing could let it be reborn. The black bird landed on Lei Xingfeng's shoulder again and combed Lei Xingfeng's hair in a flattering manner. It said, "I know that Sir is good to this bird." Caw! Lei Xingfeng ignored the black bird's simple flattery and said, "Uncle Gao, how is your cultivation?" Gao Yi smiled and said, "I have reached the peak of Heaven Monarch. After stabilizing, I can break through to Tao Monarch. However, I need a huge amount of resources and a suitable location." Jean Dia asked curiously, "What suitable location?" Gao Yi said, "An extremely cold zone." "I don't know where there is an extremely cold zone." Lei Xingfeng and Jean Dia looked at each other. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Hanya Castle. You know?" Gao Yi said, I don't know. Where is this place? Lei Xingfeng said, it should be considered an extreme cold zone. It's very cold there. If one is not prepared when the cold wave comes, even a monarch can freeze to death. Gao Yi said, oh, we can go take a look. Do you know where it is? Lei Xingfeng said, that's easy. Just go back and look for senior brother Xian Zhaoluan. He'll know. Gao Yi nodded. Yes, there's no rush. I haven't gathered all the materials yet. I need some time to prepare them. In truth, he wasn't in a hurry to ascend to the Daolord level. The technique he had prepared for his ascension had already been completely changed, and he needed a long period of time to ponder and experiment with it. Ascending to the Daolord level wasn't going to be easy. Lei Xingfeng said, yeah, I'd rather take it slow than rush to advance. Gao Yi said, did you come back to rest or return to the camp? Xian Feng laughed bitterly. Back to the camp, the magnetic storm mountain range. We're stuck at a place and can't pass, so we can only return to the camp first. Anyways, we can go anytime to train. We can't leave the camp for long. Gao Yi said, all right, then let's go back first. Through the secret door, Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, Jin Daya, and the others returned to the camp. This trip didn't take much time at all. They all directly arrived after opening the secret door. This was the benefit of having the mirror world. If they went out for a short period of time, the people in the camp wouldn't even know that Lei Xingfeng had gone out. After returning to the camp's simple home, Lei Xingfeng said, Uncle Gao, you stay here. I'll go take a look at Master and understand the situation. Gao Yi nodded. Okay, let the others out. I like more people. Lei Xingfeng nodded and let Jean Depan, Ishanel, and the others out. Suddenly, the yard became lively. As long as Jean Depan appeared, he would be accompanied by a large amount of food. A large group of people began to set up tables and chairs. Jean Depan took out the cooked food from his hidden Luan space. Lei Xingfeng walked out with Jingxia and soon arrived at Guqi's residence. Guqi had been busy cultivating these days. Most of the matters were left to Tanya and AI-8 because he had obtained the thunder cultivation method and Lei Xingfeng's cultivation experience. He vaguely felt that he could break through. Now, he just needed to make the final preparations. As for the materials, he had already prepared them. Lei Xingfeng's status was completely different now. When he came to Guqi's residence, he didn't even need to report and directly walked in. In the room, Guqi, Feng Qinzong, Tanya, and AI-8 were discussing something. Seeing Lei Xingfeng come in, Guqi laughed. Where have you been recently? I couldn't find you. There's no one at your place. Lei Xingfeng said, I went out for a walk. Guqi didn't mind. He said, come and sit down. We were just discussing something. Lei Xingfeng sat down and said, Master, what's the matter? Guqi said, many secret sects have moved here. They need to coordinate with each other to avoid fighting each other and conflicts over resources. In addition, there are many high-level cultivators here. There are true monarchs, heavenly monarchs, and even a few Dao monarchs. Many sects have already suffered losses. They rob everything. Many of the secret sects' disciples have died. Lei Xingfeng thought of the person who appeared in the magnetic storm mountain. He nodded. Yes. Are we going to fight? Guqi shook his head. These people, although there aren't many of them, they are very strong. The disciples of the secret sects can't resist them. Unless the elders of the sects appear, we can't start a war for now. Lei Xingfeng said, have any of our disciples been robbed? Guqi said, not yet. I've restrained them from going out. However, if they go out to look for materials, the chances of them being robbed are high. Feng Qinzong smiled bitterly. What do the disciples of the secret sects have to rob? I really don't understand. Guqi said, food. They mainly rob food, and all kinds of seasonings. Hearing this, everyone was dumbstruck towards food. They had never placed it in their eyes. Of course, Xian Feng was an exception. He knew how scary it was to go hungry. Feng Chenzong said, "What's the meaning of this?" Gucci said, "Food is very important. These experts mostly hunt to replenish their food, so they don't lack meat. However, they lack seasonings, especially salt and food. So tell all the disciples to bring some food and salt. If they rob, give it to them." Lei Xingfeng said curiously, "These aren't worth much. They can be exchanged or given. Why do they have to kill them?" Gucci sighed. "Because these secret sect disciples don't know how to be strong. Their words are unpleasant. It's not strange for them to be killed." Lei Xingfeng said, "Then we have to remind everyone. If they get killed, it'll be too unjust." Gucci said, "I've already said it. As for you not being here, of course, with your current strength, you don't have to be afraid of these people. But it's always better to be careful." Lei Xingfeng agreed. Feng Chenzong said, "A Feng shouldn't be afraid. With the strength of a heavenly monarch, he can move unhindered in this land. Plus, a Feng is of the lightning attribute. His fighting strength is very strong. Even if he meets a peak heavenly monarch, he can still fight." Gucci said, "Still, you can't be careless. There aren't only heavenly monarchs here. There are also Dao monarchs." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Master, I'll be careful." "Oh, right. When will the founder return?" Gucci said, "That's hard to say. It might be soon, or it might take a long time. But first, we have to lay down the foundation." Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know if Yi has returned. Alas, if he had returned to the secret hidden space earlier, perhaps the founder would have been able to bring him here." Tanya said, "Don't worry. Yi will come back." Lei Xingfeng knew that it was useless to worry. He said, "Master, do you have any other orders? If not, I'll go back." Gucci said, "Nothing much. Will you be going out in the near future?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "That's hard to say. Maybe I'll go out, maybe I'll stay at home." Gucci said, "All right, you don't need me to worry about you anyway. Decide for yourself." Lei Xingfeng got up and said goodbye. He walked out of Gucci's residence with Jing Zia. There were already many people walking on the streets of the camp. It was very lively. They were the guards and family members of the direct disciples. Ordinary people hadn't come yet. They were all cultivators of the sect. When they saw Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia, they hurriedly made way and saluted them. Many of them looked at Jing Zia curiously. Jing Zia was really too special. At first glance, they could tell that she was not human. However, her expression and movements were almost exactly the same as a human. It was impossible not to attract attention. Lei Xingfeng walked in front, and Jing Zia followed behind. At this time, someone shouted, "A Feng, wait!" Xian Zhaoluan ran over and said, "A Feng, I haven't seen you for a while. Where have you been?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "I went out for a walk." Xian Zhaoluan's eyes lit up and said, "Did you find anything good?" Lei Xingfeng said, "It's not that easy." In fact, he did find something good. It was just that he couldn't say it. Xian Zhaoluan said, "Come, let's go to my house." Lei Xingfeng thought about it and didn't have much to do. Moreover, he hadn't interacted much with his senior brothers and sisters recently. After a long time, he felt a little unfamiliar with them. He didn't want to be estranged from them and said, "Okay." The camp wasn't big, so they quickly arrived at Xian Zhaoluan's house. His house was much better than Lei Xingfeng's. There were 3 small buildings. They were 2-story buildings with flat roofs and wooden sheds. There were many people in Xian Zhaoluan's faction. After all, he had been in the secret sect for a long time and had a much better foundation than Lei Xingfeng. The courtyard was very lively. A few of the direct disciples were there. Qi Meiyun, Yi Niao, Tung Yuan, and Miao Ling. Only Yu Ko and Bai Tianming weren't there. Lei Xingfeng walked in with a smile and said, "Senior brothers and sisters are all here. What are you doing? Gathering?" Hearing Lei Xingfeng say this, everyone's faces relaxed. They knew that Lei Xingfeng didn't want to put on airs. Qi Meiyan said, "Feng, you're so elusive now. We can't even find you." Yi Niao said, "Yeah, Feng is a great expert now. He can't be bothered with you." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but smile bitterly. These two senior sisters would often quarrel for no reason. They would even fight. Back then, it was because of their fight that he was involved. In the end, he was taken into the secret sect by Gucci. He said, "Senior sister, do you have something against me?" Yin Yao laughed and said, I wouldn't dare. Our Feng is so strong. I can't beat him." Chapter 426. Qi Meiyan said, "What a sour smell." Miao Ling giggled. "I smell it too, hee hee." Yin Yao laughed. "You're trying to ruin my show again. I'll beat you up." Qi Meiyan said, "Go ahead, try hitting me." She wasn't afraid of Yin Yao. Xian Zhaoluan frowned. "All right, stop messing around." Among the juniors, his prestige was even higher than Yuko's, so when he spoke, Qi Meiyun and Yin Yao didn't dare to continue messing around. Tung Yuan said, "Feng is Fatty at home? I went to look for him once, but there's no one at home." Lei Xingfeng said, "Fatty is at home. Get someone to invite him over." Tung Yuan shook his head. "Forget it for today. I'll go look for him next time." Xian Zhaoluan clapped his hands. "All right, Feng's here. If you have anything to say it to him." Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "Hey, second senior brother, are you looking for me?" Xian Zhaoluan laughed. "Of course, I sent someone to guard Master's door. When I saw you come out, I came to call you, of course. It's not a coincidence." Lei Xingfeng said, all right, what's the matter?" Xian Zhaoluan's face lit up. He said, "After we came here, we haven't really gone out to take a look, whether it's junior, uncle, or master. They don't have time to take us. The grandmaster isn't here either. Master told us not to go out as much. It's not peaceful outside." Lei Xingfeng understood what he meant. He said, "I understand what you mean. You want me to go out with everyone?" Qi Meiyan said, "Can you do it? Feng?" Lei Xingfeng immediately smiled and said, "Of course, I can also ask Uncle Gao Yi to come with us." The implication was that Gao Yi would be everyone's bodyguard. Everyone was overjoyed. They had been bored to death in this place. In the Dawn Continent, they were also not allowed to go out. They were all in the camp, either cultivating or doing nothing. They had long been unable to bear it. Unexpectedly, after arriving in the outer realm and setting up camp, they were still cooped up at home. Moreover, the elders in their families did not have the time to take them out. Therefore, they had no choice but to set their sights on Lei Xingfeng. No matter what, Lei Xingfeng would not refuse. He knew that the future would be the time for cultivators to develop greatly. These senior brothers and sisters were all in a powerful alliance. Although they were still weak now, no one would look down on the direct descendants of secret sections. Their success rate was extremely high. One day, they would reach the level of a true lord or a heaven lord. They might even reach the level of a Tao lord. Miao Ling giggled and said, "Feng is still the best. Hee hee." In fact, they had already asked Feng Chenzong before this. However, Feng Chenzong did not agree. Firstly, he was not strong enough. Especially since he had just become a true lord not long ago, he was not confident at all. He was also afraid of accidents if he brought along his former junior brothers and sisters. Secondly, he was not familiar with the outer realm and did not know where to go. Therefore, Feng Chenzong rejected them very straightforwardly. He was not like Lei Xingfeng. If he could not go, he would explain it clearly. However, he did not explain, which made his former junior brothers and sisters extremely depressed. Therefore, someone suggested that they might as well ask Lei Xingfeng. No matter what, Lei Xingfeng was more familiar with this place than them. Moreover, he had experts by his side who could protect everyone. Originally, they thought that Lei Xingfeng would refuse. They did not expect Lei Xingfeng to agree, and even say that he would invite Gao Yi. Everyone was immediately excited. Yi Niao said, "You still say that a Feng is a good person." This time, Qi Meiyan did not bicker with her. She said, "I knew that a Feng would agree." Everyone immediately started praising him. So, Lei Xingfeng was their junior brother. Everyone thought of him for everything. In the past, when they went to the outer realm through the secret door, they would often take the initiative to invite Lei Xingfeng. This was actually an opportunity, especially back then, when Lei Xingfeng did not know anything. He helped Lei Xingfeng a lot. This time, Lei Xingfeng's agreement made everyone feel that he was a good person. He was not an ungrateful person. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let senior brother Yuko come too. Oh, and senior brother Bai as well." Everyone had an awkward expression on their faces. Lei Xingfeng asked, "What's wrong?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "Senior brother has already gone out. He left with junior brother Bai Tianming." Lei Xingfeng was instantly stunned. He asked, "What do you mean?" Qi Meiyan explained, Bai Tianming's great-uncle is a heaven monarch realm expert from another secret door. This time, he specially brought him out for an adventure. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's an adventure organized by another secret door, so they invited senior brother Bai Tianming. But why did senior brother Yuko also go?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "He, senior brother is thick-skinned." So he followed. Junior brother Bai could not reject him. After all, he is the senior brother. Besides, one more person is not a big deal. His tone obviously had a trace of displeasure. Lei Xingfeng was very clear that this could not be considered Yuko's fault. When Bai Tianming went, no one had any objections. When Yuko went, no one would have any objections. However, no matter what, there would be a knot in their hearts. It was certain that they were unhappy. It was just that they did not know that it was just a slight imbalance in their hearts. Lei Xingfeng stood up and said, "All right, everyone get ready. When you are ready, gather at my place. Second senior brother, please inform master that we are going out." Xian Zhaoluan happily agreed. He said, "All right, everyone get ready. Who will go with me to inform master?" Qi Meiyan said, "Senior brother, let me go with you." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He turned and walked out. He said, "Everyone can bring 1 or 2 guards, but don't bring too many people. Otherwise, it will be too cumbersome." Everyone agreed and immediately dispersed. Lei Xingfeng brought Jingxia home. Soon, Lei Xingfeng returned home. Gao Yi and the others were still waiting. Seeing Lei Xingfeng come back, Gao Yi said, "A Feng, come and eat. Haha, this is really delicious." The large table of food was already in a mess. Basically, it was all eaten. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's all finished. What do you want me to eat?" Jean Depang immediately said, "Yes, there is still a lot. It's enough for you to eat." He immediately led his subordinates to clean up the table and put all kinds of food on it. For him, cultivation might not be the best, but when it came to cooking, he would definitely strive for perfection. Lei Xingfeng carried a large bowl of rice with a few spoonfuls of red braised pork and some vegetables. He was too lazy to ask Jean Depang to cook up too many things. He was already very satisfied with just eating like this. Jean Depang had no choice. He originally wanted to cook up a few good dishes for Lei Xingfeng, but Lei Xingfeng asked for something so simple. He had no choice but to do as he was told and served a large bowl of rice. In fact, it was just a bowl of rice. Jingxia didn't eat food. She only ate one kind of thing, which was energy crystals. Xianfeng was indeed hungry due to the rapid growth of his cultivation. Not eating for a long time didn't affect him much, so he would often forget to eat. Suddenly, he picked up a bowl of fragrant rice and a bowl of oily red braised meat, causing his appetite to soar. Lei Xingfeng was very satisfied with the meal. His appetite was much smaller than before, so a bowl of rice was enough. Putting down the bowl, Lei Xingfeng said, "We're going out for an adventure tomorrow." "Who's going?" Gao Yi said, "Going out for an adventure at this time?" Lei Xingfeng smiled. "My senior brothers and sisters want to go out, but it's too dangerous outside. They want me to go with them." "Uncle Gao, let's go together." Gao Yi said, "Okay, let's go together. I know a place with a lot of good things. You can go look for them." With Gao Yi leading the way, Lei Xingfeng immediately felt relieved. Jean Dia said, "I'm not going. I have a lot of things to deal with at home." Mad Eagle and Tiger Love weren't going either. They had a lot of things to do in the mirror world. Jean Depang came up and said with a smile, "A phone, take me there." Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. Although he was relatively weak, Lei Xingfeng was confident that he could protect him. As long as he had a gold-grade puppet beast to protect him, it would be enough for Lei Xingfeng to come to his rescue. Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Okay, then Depang will accompany him." "Ishan, are you going?" Ishan also shook his head. "No, I have more things to do." After bringing everyone back to the mirror world, Lei Xingfeng went back to his room to rest. The next morning, Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, Jingxia, and Jean Depang appeared at their home outside the camp. Soon, Xian Zhaoluan and Qi Meiyun came in with a 9th ring true bodyguard. Then, Miaoling came in with Sister Hong. Tung Yuan and Yinyao also came in with their own guards. After everyone was gathered, Lei Xingfeng said, "The place we're going to is designated by Uncle Gao. We'll go through Uncle Gao's secret door. This will save us a lot of trouble. Uncle Gao, tell us about the place we're going to and some things we need to pay attention to." Gao Yi smiled and stood up. He clapped his hands and said, "Okay, everyone pay attention." He paused for a moment before continuing. "The place we're going to this time is a relatively peaceful place on this continent full of forbidden areas and big forbidden areas. There are no restrictions or disturbances here, and there aren't too many ferocious beasts such as star beasts. This is a place rich in resources. Generally, cultivators who have stayed here for a long time would know about this place." "Tuki Slope," Gao Yi said, "the most dangerous thing in Tung Chi Slope isn't the beasts. The most dangerous thing in Tung Chi Slope is the people. This is a place where resources are concentrated. Many cultivators know about this place." The cultivators he was referring to were obviously experts above monarch level. Xian Zhaoluan raised his hand and said, "Senior Gao, what do we need to prepare?" Gao Yi said, "You don't need to prepare anything. Just come with me. When you get there, you can find useful things on your own. Remember, if you see anyone, return to the group immediately. A phone, and I will take care of any problems. You understand?" Xian Zhaoluan nodded. Understood. Everyone was excited. They could finally go out. They were almost bored to death. It was too uncomfortable to stay in this small camp every day. Chapter 427. Lei Xingfeng said, "Everyone come over. Each of you will have a gold level puppet beast by your side. If there is any danger, let it block it. Don't try to be brave here." Xian Zhaoluan, Qi Meiyun, Yin Yao, Tung Yuan, Miaoling, and Jean Depang all brought a gold-level puppet beast. There were a total of 6 gold-level puppets, which were 6 Hercules. With these things, everyone's safety was guaranteed. Even Gao Yi was shocked. He couldn't understand how Lei Xingfeng managed to get so many gold level puppets. Xi and Zhaoluan, and the rest were overjoyed. Lei Xingfeng always had some surprises for people. Gao Yi opened the door without hesitation. Everyone immediately moved and walked in one by one. Soon, only Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi were left. The two looked at each other. Lei Xingfeng was the first to walk in, followed by Gao Yi. The moment Gao Yi entered, the door disappeared. Tai Chi Slope didn't have any slopes. Instead, it was a continuous chain of small hills, countless primeval forests, and small streams. One could often see hundreds of acres of wild grass. The grass was half a person's height. When a person walked on the grass, only their shoulders and head could be seen. This was an extremely beautiful scenery. Lei Xingfeng admired it very much, but the others didn't care. This world might lack other things, but it didn't lack scenery. All kinds of beautiful scenery could be seen everywhere. They were all natural masterpieces. Gao Yi was the last to walk out of the door. Xi and Zhaoluan, and the rest had already flown to the treetops and began to search the surroundings. Miao Ling was still standing on the ground, but her bodyguard, Hongjia, had already flown to the treetops to look around. Miao Ling said, "There doesn't seem to be anything special here." This kind of geographical environment was very common. It could be found everywhere. However, Xi and Feng knew that this place wasn't ordinary with just a glance, because in his eyes there were many spots of light, and among them there was an intense light shooting out. He knew that there were definitely treasures here, no matter if it was plants or minerals. As long as there was an intense light, then it was a treasure. This was something he had tested countless times, and never once had he been disappointed. Lei Xingfeng was certain that this was indeed a treasure trove. There were large amounts of resources and plant treasures. He said, "All right, bring your guards and gold-level puppets and spread out to search. There are indeed many good things here. It depends on whether you have the ability to find them." Gao Yi reminded him, "Don't run too far, or we won't be able to save you in time." There were all kinds of animals and wild beasts in the forest, but they were not a big threat to Xi and Zhaoluan and the others. As long as they were not top-level beasts, they would not be a big threat. Of course, if they were unlucky and encountered an adult star beast and could not escape, they would all be wiped out. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's rare for us to come out. Let's look around too." Gao Yi said, "I'll stand guard here. You all go search." With Gao Ye's protection, Lei Xingfeng was of course at ease. He led Jingxia into the forest. Lei Xingfeng wanted to collect all kinds of plant treasures. He had a vague idea that since plants were also living things, they contained many elements that were suitable for practitioners. After reaching a high level of cultivation, the use of rare plants would become more and more important. It could be said that the cultivators of the secret sects spent their entire lives searching for all kinds of materials. It couldn't be helped. Their cultivation relied on the accumulation of resources. Just relying on hard work was far from enough. This was also one of the most important reasons why the secret sects had to migrate. When a place's resources were exhausted, if they didn't migrate, then the secret sects would only face one path, complete decline. Therefore, every practitioner had their own set of skills when it came to collecting and excavating. When Xi and Zhaoluan and the others spread out to search, they began to find all kinds of good things. Shouts and screams rose one after another. When they found a rare plant, no one could remain calm. Not only could they exchange it for yin rings and complete the sect's mission, they could also exchange it for materials for their own advancement. Lei Xingfeng led Jingxia for a stroll in the forest. He did not search aimlessly like the others. Instead, he went straight to his target. This was the skill of his strange eyes. Jingxia followed, Lei Xingfeng. Of course, she could see the strangeness of Lei Xingfeng's eyes. His eyes were completely silver, and sometimes they even emitted traces of electricity. It was very strange. Fortunately, she was a puppet. If Lei Xingfeng did not say anything, she would not ask. Of course, she would not tell anyone. Even if she had intelligence, she was still a puppet. She did not have the heart of a human being. Lei Xingfeng dug up rare herbs and plants and stored them directly in the mirror world. There were people there who took care of them and quickly planted them in the cultivation garden. He did not just collect materials. He began to cultivate them as he collected them. When the plants grew to their best state, he would harvest them. Jingzia said, "You like herbs? You know how to make medicine?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know how to make medicine. I am not a wood cultivator. However, my little sister is a wood cultivator. She is very talented. I am collecting these for her." Jingzia said, "Medicine is very difficult to learn. Even in our era, medicine was very rare. A bottle of high-level medicine is priceless." Xian Feng nodded. "It's the same for our hidden sect. Medicines are hard to come by and are always in short supply. Many medicines require us to gather precious herbs to exchange for them, or else we can't even buy them." Jingzia said indifferently, "It is very normal. Experts who can make medicine, other than learning and cultivating at the beginning, will trade with other people's herbs in the later stages. Most of them have their own huge cultivation garden." Lei Xingfeng suddenly said, "There is something good in front." As he spoke, he ran quickly. The light in front of him was so dazzling. In his eyes, it was definitely an extremely rare treasure. He could not be careless. If it was dug out by others, he would cry but have no tears. There was a circle of black soil. Apart from a red plant, there were no other plants. The area was not large, and the diameter of the black soil was about 2 meters. It was irregular, and the red plant was very strange. It was like a red crab lying on the ground. It was exactly the same as a sea crab. Its 8 claws were deeply embedded in the ground, and its 2 pincers were also embedded in the ground, supporting its basin-sized body. The red crab shell was covered with purple-red fluff. This plant was so strange that Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He did not know this plant. Red crab spiritual grass. Jingzia recognized it. She said, "This is red crab spiritual grass. It is highly poisonous." The word highly poisonous made Lei Xingfeng withdraw his hand immediately. He said, "Highly poisonous?" Jingzia pulled Lei Xingfeng back a step and said, "You can't touch it. You can transplant it completely together with the soil. This soil is formed by the poison released by the red crab spiritual grass. No plant can survive in it. It is also the key to its production." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What is the use of the red crab spiritual grass?" Jingzia was a little surprised. "How can you find it if you don't know?" She said, "I don't know the specific use. I just know that this thing is very precious. If it is given to a cultivator who specializes in making medicine, it will be very valuable." Lei Xingfeng stretched out his hand and grabbed something. A knife flashing with thunder and lightning appeared. Jingzia said, "What are you doing?" Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "Don't worry. I am not so stupid as to cut the red crab spiritual grass. I will clean up the surrounding soil." Since he couldn't touch it, he used a safe method to directly clean up the soil around the black soil, leaving only the black soil and the red crab spiritual grass. Then he moved them into the cultivation garden in the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng entered the mirror realm with a large mass of black soil and the red crab spiritual grass. He appeared directly in the cultivation garden, then quickly dug a big hole and put the red crab spiritual grass in it. After everything was done, Lei Xingfeng thought that something was wrong. If someone from the cultivation garden came here and touched the red crab spiritual grass, they would probably die. Even he didn't dare to touch it, let alone ordinary cultivators. After thinking for a while, Xianfeng decided to use a small restriction, the one he got from the training technique on the wall. That restriction was very simple. Xianfeng had used it to restrict lightning liquid plasma before. This time using it to restrict this small piece of land shouldn't be much of a problem. This kind of small restriction had a few forms. Using it to restrict lightning liquid plasma was the most exhausting, but there were other methods that could be used to protect small restrictions that only required the use of a few simple materials. Soon, a small restriction was set up, and a transparent light shield quickly disappeared. When Lei Xingfeng reached out to touch it, the light shield immediately appeared, and a trace of electric arcs shot out. They wouldn't hurt people, but they were enough to repel people. Lei Xingfeng nodded with satisfaction. It had only been 10 minutes since he left the mirror realm, so no one would notice that Lei Xingfeng had disappeared. Jingzia said, "You have to remind the people in the cultivation garden that the red crab spiritual grass is not something that ordinary people can touch. If they are not careful, they will die." Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "It's a restriction." Hee, a few small restrictions in the cultivation method are very useful. In our cultivation system, there is no concept of restriction. Jingzia said, "There will be no problem with the restriction. If the red crab spiritual grass is given to a wood cultivator, it will be very useful." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yes, this red crab spiritual grass is for my little sister." From time to time, excited shouts could be heard from the distance. Because Lei Xingfeng's secret sect had a close relationship with his little sister's secret sect, precious medicinal materials and spiritual herbs could be exchanged for very good potions. Although they didn't know how to make potions, they knew a lot about various kinds of spiritual herbs and herbs. There were a lot of medicinal materials here, and the most important thing was that there were many varieties, which gave everyone a lot of surprises. There were a lot of rare plants in this dense forest. And of course, there were also many that Lei Xingfeng and the others didn't know. The others only collected the spiritual herbs that they knew, but Lei Xingfeng was different. His eyes were very special. He could transplant any plant that shone with light, unless it was not suitable for transplant. Then he would collect it and put it in a black box. Jingzia followed Lei Xingfeng and watched him transplant medicinal materials and plants. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "How do you know so many plants?" Because she couldn't recognize more than half of the plants that Lei Xingfeng transplanted. Chapter 4:28. Lei Xingfeng even transplanted some big trees and saplings into the mirror realm. After transplanting them, Lei Xingfeng would release gold-level puppets. According to Jingzia, this was the job of strongman. Lei Xingfeng sighed with emotion as he searched. That's strange. No one should have been here before. Some precious spiritual herbs have a growth cycle of 100 years or even a few hundred years. If someone came here, they would have dug them all up. Why are there so many left? Jingzia said, "This land is too big. In our time, cultivators often found all kinds of good things, but they gradually fell out of favor. It was only after they migrated that these precious medicinal herbs started to grow. This can be considered your welfare." Lei Xingfeng understood that the first person to try would always eat the meat, the second person could only gnaw on the bones, and the third person could still drink some soup. Those who came later would not get anything. After a large-scale migration, the first batch of people who dared to come out would definitely make a lot of money as long as they returned safely. The best things would go to these people. As time passed, the resources on this land would become fewer and fewer until the cultivators could no longer bear it and continued to migrate. Now, there was no need to worry about the lack of resources. The problem was how to find and excavate more resources. Only with enough resources and people could the secret sect flourish. Lei Xingfeng pushed forward. He flew to the treetops from time to time. No matter how high he went, he did not dare to fly, but it was enough for him to observe. Lei Xingfeng's main task now was to find a place for Elder Thunderstorm to cultivate and collect more plant resources for his little sister. He hoped that his family would become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he ensure his own safety. He could not always protect his family by his side. In the end, he would have to venture into this dangerous world alone. Over the next few days, the group collected large amounts of rare herbs. Some were lucky and collected extremely precious spirit herbs. Lei Xingfeng obviously would not let them go, so he exchanged with these senior brothers and sisters. He used silver grade spirit puppets to exchange. Among them, there was an extremely rare spirit herb that Tung Yuan had discovered and excavated. Lei Xingfeng used a gold-grade spirit puppet to exchange for it. Tung Yuan was extremely happy. To him, being a guard here was not enough. A ninth-ring true bodyguard would not be able to cope with the complicated environment here. With a gold-grade spirit puppet, his safety was greatly guaranteed. Just this exchange made the other senior brothers and sisters extremely jealous. They all discussed that once they found a top-grade spirit herb, they would exchange it with Lei Xingfeng. After the exchange ended, Lei Xingfeng planned to bring them back. Only then did he call Gao Yi back and prepare to open the secret sect. Gao Yi came to Lei Xingfeng's side and said, "I don't think we can leave for now." He raised his voice and said, "Come out, don't hide." Lei Xingfeng was shocked. He knew why they could not leave. Once Gao Yi opened the secret sect, they would be in trouble if that person attacked them when they entered the secret sect. A person slowly walked out of the dense forest with 4 people beside him. However, when Lei Xingfeng looked carefully, he immediately realized that something was wrong. This was because this person was followed by 4 spirit puppets. Their bodies were covered in a layer of crystal brilliance, and they were all male. Each of them was tall and mighty and held weapons in their hands. They were all single-edged axes. These axes were very special. They looked like long swords, but they were extremely thick, and the tip of the axes extended outwards. However, Jingxia was a little nervous. She said, "Battle puppets. They are battle puppets." Lei Xingfeng said softly, "What is a battle puppet? Is it stronger than you?" Jingxia said, "It's not the same. I'm not a battle puppet. I have more of a management and coordination ability. Fighting is just a bonus. Their intelligence is limited. They are slightly stronger than strongmen, but their fighting power is much stronger. You have to be careful." Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "Weakness? What is it?" Gao Yi had already gone forward. The others immediately shrank into a circle and formed a defensive formation. Lei Xingfeng did not dare to be careless and immediately went forward. He could not let these senior brothers and sisters go up to meet the enemy. They were not strong enough. Jingxia followed him closely and whispered, "Their weakness is at the back of their heads. They are covered by the neck guard crystal. If we break the neck guard crystal, we can threaten their survival." Gao Yi also heard this. He turned around and smiled. "Very good," Lei Xingfeng said. "Uncle Gao, have you seen battle puppets before?" Gao Yi said, "No, this is the first time I've seen them. This person is strong enough to subdue 4 battle puppets." Lei Xingfeng said, "Be careful. This person should not be simple." Soon, the distance between the 2 parties was shortened to about 30 meters. Both parties stood still at the same time. That person realized something was wrong because the other party's aura was similar to his. They were both Heaven Monarch realm experts. It was 2 against 1. However, He was obviously very confident in his battle puppets. Soon, he noticed Jingxia behind Lei Xingfeng. He couldn't help but be stunned. He didn't expect that the other party would also have a battle puppet. That person said, "Sorry to disturb you. This humble one is Tang Geng." Gao Yi thought for a moment and did not have any impression of this name. He had never seen this person before. Gao Yi said, "Gao Yi." Lei Xingfeng was also a Heaven Monarch realm expert now. Therefore, he took a step forward and said, "Lei Xingfeng." Tang Geng nodded and said, "This is my territory. Don't you think you are going overboard by harvesting here without informing me?" Gao Ye's face revealed a trace of mockery. He said, "This is the first time I have heard that under this continent, in the outer realm, there is actually someone who claims that this is his territory. Is your brain damaged?" Once he heard Tang Geng's tone, he naturally couldn't show any weakness. Showing weakness here was almost the same as courting death. Although Tang Geng was a Heaven Monarch, it was obvious that he hadn't reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. Therefore, it was certain that he was relying on the 4 battle puppets. Gao Yi had barely reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. Of course, he still needed some time to consolidate his cultivation. He was extremely powerful. With Lei Xingfeng and Jingxia, he wasn't afraid of the other party's provocation. Tang Geng was dressed very sloppily. He was not much different from when Lei Xingfeng first met Gao Yi. An unknown animal's fur covered his waist. Other than this fur covering his waist, he was completely naked. His body was covered with thick black fur. His face had a thick beard, and his eyes were extremely bright. His hair was so long that it reached his waist. He looked like a savage. A sour smell could be smelled from 30 meters away. He was holding a huge bone club in his hand, which was flickering with a faint yellow light. Xi and Zhaoluan and the others were very nervous. They were only 100 meters away from the 2 parties. They could already feel the hostile aura from both parties. Even if they were 100 meters away, the huge power could still affect them. Qi Meiyun said, "Why are there so many people? Are they all experts?" Yin Yao said, "This person is a big threat to me. I don't feel anything from the 4 people behind him." Tung Yuan had the gold-level puppet beside him, so he was a little calmer. He did not know that the gold-level puppet was nothing in front of the battle puppet. The battle puppet that even Jingxia was afraid of was not something that they could resist. He said, "Are we too close?" Xi and Zhaoluan also felt that the threat was too great. He said, "Let's retreat slowly. Don't alarm them." The group of people slowly retreated. Even so, their defensive formation did not change. The quality of these disciples was very high. Even if they had not reached the level of monarch, they were all disciples with great potential. Due to their cultivation techniques, if they could get a good technique, it would not be a big problem for them to advance to monarch. The insurmountable gap of advancement seemed to have suddenly become smaller. This was the benefit of migration. Soon, the crowd retreated about 200 meters away. In addition to the original distance, they were now more than 300 meters away from the 2 parties. The huge pressure finally decreased to a level that they could bear. Xi and Zhaoluan said, "All right, let's just watch from here. Once the battle starts, we will definitely not interfere. As long as we don't distract Feng and Senior Gao, we will win." Qi Meiyun said, "All right, everyone be quiet. While they are not paying attention, let's squat down." Everyone squatted down. This was a grassland. The weeds were about 140 centimeters tall. When they stood up, the weeds reached their waists. So when they squatted down, it was as if they suddenly disappeared. Miao Ling said softly, "Senior brother, second senior brother." Xi and Zhaoluan said, "What are you doing?" Miao Ling said, "We can slowly change to another place." Xian Zhaolun could not help but praise. Good idea. He knew that the two parties would not be able to observe their surroundings. When they were facing each other, they would definitely be highly focused. He said softly, "Let's go to the forest at the side. Be careful, don't show your head. Bend down and walk." The group of people quickly hid in a forest. However, they didn't dare to go too far. Who knew what was in the forest? Without Gao Ye's protection, they didn't dare to wander around. The continents in the outer realms were already notorious. They didn't know when they would encounter danger. Whether it was Gao Yi, Lei Xingfeng, or Tang Geng, none of them noticed Xian Zhaolun's group. Both parties were focused on each other. Lei Xingfeng's body faintly appeared with Qianya Silver's shadow. There were traces of electric arcs jumping on his right hand. Jing Zia said softly, "Give me a weapon." Lei Xingfeng could not find a suitable weapon in his hurry. He flipped his hand and took out the giant axe used by the Iron Man puppet. This thing was huge, but Jing Zia was obviously very satisfied. She held it in her hand. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. A delicate little girl. Although she was a puppet, she looked very much like a human. She was holding a giant axe that was even bigger than her body. No matter how he looked at it, it gave him a strange kind of beauty. That kind of valiance amidst the gentleness made all tough girls pale in comparison. Jing Zia's small hand could not even hold the handle of the axe, but she held it firmly with one hand. She did not feel any strain at all. She looked like she was about to fight. Tang Geng began to hesitate. In fact, he did not really care about the two heaven monarchs, especially when the other party had a bunch of disciples. They should have more scruples than him. After comparing their strengths, he did not have the confidence to kill everyone on the other side. Moreover, the other party only brought their disciples out, and there were already two heaven monarchs protecting them. This meant that the other party had a lot of hidden power. Chapter 429. Tang Geng said, "Leave some spiritual herbs. Also leave some food and salt. Yes, and clothes." Gao Yi sneered and said, "Why should I leave anything? Who do you think you are?" Tang Geng's expression suddenly changed. "Oh, then let's make a bet." "Humph! I believe you don't dare to fight with me and scrupulously. You have so many disciples. Be careful, or I'll kill them all." "Huh! Where did they go?" Only then did he realize that the group of people who were standing not far away had disappeared. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but laugh and said, "Idiot, they left long ago." He had to trick the other party no matter what. Tang Geng was a little angry and said, "Even if they left, they couldn't have gone far. I'll find them." This time, even Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but get angry. He said coldly, "It seems like you got us." In fact, when he heard that Xian Zhaolun and the others had disappeared, he secretly praised this group of senior brothers and sisters for being smart and removing a big burden for them. He couldn't help but feel a little eager to try. Although he had fought a few moves with Gao Yi, he didn't know his own strength. Without a real battle, he couldn't figure out his own strength. Tang Geng said lazily, "Okay, let's try it." As soon as these words came out, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng's nerves tensed up. A battle wasn't scary, but the upcoming battle made them nervous. Tang Geng suddenly retreated and shouted, "Go! I'd like to see how you deal with my baby." In an instant, the surrounding temperature plummeted. Gao Yi took the initiative to strike with his palm. An illusory palm quickly condensed and shot out. Boom! A violent airflow, mixed with an extremely cold aura, quickly spread out. Lei Xingfeng dodged in an instant. His target was a battle puppet. An illusory broadsword had condensed in his right hand, flickering with dazzling silver light and countless arcs of electricity. Lei Xingfeng raised his hand, and the illusory broadsword quickly enlarged. In the blink of an eye, it had reached more than 4 meters long. Then it slashed down. With a thunderous boom, the giant lightning blade chopped down. The corner of Tang Gung's eyes twitched. Only then did he realize that Lei Xingfeng actually possessed the rare thunder attribute. One should know that the thunder attribute was extremely difficult to deal with. This thing was very abnormal and could freeze the opponent. One should know that thunder attribute cultivators were known to be able to sweep away those of the same level. Of course, this was a little exaggerated, but it also showed that thunder attribute cultivators were extremely difficult to deal with. What made Tang Gung most uncomfortable was that Lei Xingfeng wasn't the only one with the lightning attribute. Gao Ye's attribute was also very abnormal. An ice attribute cultivator's attack power was similarly sharp. Furthermore, ice attribute cultivators were born with the ability to delay their opponents. They were also extremely difficult opponents to deal with. Tang Gung was an earth attribute cultivator and had extremely strong defense. He was originally quite careful, but after obtaining the 4 battle puppets, his confidence began to swell. This robbery and extortion was just to get something and not to kill. However, when he saw that Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng were both cultivators with special attributes, he began to panic. Jing Zia stopped at the side with a giant axe in her hand. It was obvious that she was guarding against him from leaving the battle circle. 2 battle puppets were dealing with Gao Yi, 1 battle puppet was dealing with Lei Xingfeng, and the remaining battle puppet was protecting Tang Gung. This guy was hiding behind the battle puppet, blinking his eyes. No one knew what he was thinking. The battle puppets were basically all physical attacks. They had extremely strong defense and sharp attack power. However, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng weren't ordinary people, especially Gao Yi, who had reached the peak stage of the Heaven Monarch realm. After a few probing attacks, he was already confident. Lei Xingfeng had also tested a few moves. He gradually realized that although the battle puppets were very fierce, as long as they were out of direct contact, the battle puppets didn't have any extra moves. They just kept on charging at an extremely fast speed. However, Lei Xingfeng's speed was even faster. He was a lightning attribute cultivator, and speed was one of his most proficient skills. Even if he wasn't as fast as lightning, he wasn't far behind. He used the illusory lightning hand to slap the battle puppets. Every time, he could successfully fix the battle puppets in place for a few seconds. However, every time this happened, the battle puppet that was attacking Gao Yi would block another attack from Lei Xingfeng. The 3 battle puppets cooperated well, which gave Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi a headache. This thing was like a piece of incomparably hard metal that couldn't be killed no matter how they hit it. Lei Xingfeng successfully fixed another battle puppet, but the other battle puppet had already pounced over. In an instant, it blocked Lei Xingfeng's second attack. However, at this moment, Jing Zia suddenly disappeared and suddenly appeared beside the battle puppet that was fixed in place. She swept the giant axe horizontally at the back of the battle puppet's neck. This was the battle puppet's real weakness. Tang Gung was so frightened that he yelled. He didn't have time to save the battle puppet and only had time to shoot out a yellow light ball. That yellow light ball wasn't aimed at Jing Zia, but it directly hit the battle puppet that was in danger. In an instant, the battle puppet's body glowed with dazzling golden light. At the same time, Jing Zia's giant axe horizontally chopped at the back of the battle puppet's neck. Ka! The incomparably large force of impact sent the battle doll flying tens of meters away. Xian Feng followed, closely behind, instantly arriving beside the battle doll, grabbing its head with one hand and pressing down on its shoulder with the other. With a shout, with a kacha sound, he actually twisted its head off. The reason why it was so easy to succeed was because Jing Zia's axe had opened a 2-finger deep wound on the battle puppet's neck. This allowed Lei Xingfeng to quickly kill it. Lei Xingfeng unceremoniously put the battle puppet into his hidden Luan space. This kind of treasure, even if damaged, was very hard to come by. In the future, if he had the time, he could slowly analyze it and obtain the overall structure of the battle puppet and find a way to subdue it. Tang Gung screamed. He was about to go crazy. These 4 battle puppets were his treasures and his greatest reliance on this land. How could he not be anxious when one of them was killed by Lei Xingfeng as soon as the battle started? His whole body felt like it was about to burn. He roared and couldn't stay calm any longer. At this time, Gao Yi also succeeded. A thick icicle directly pierced through the back of a battle puppet's neck and was then put into his hidden Luan space. Tang Gung was frightened. In less than 10 seconds of battle, he had already lost 2 battle puppets. Even a fool would know that he wasn't a match for the 2 of them. Xianfeng waved his hand, and in an instant, dozens of steel mannequins appeared and surrounded the 2 battle mannequins while Jingzia jumped onto a large metal spider and commanded the steel mannequins to fight against the battle mannequins. The steel mannequins were much weaker than the battle mannequins. As long as they met, the battle mannequins could easily shatter them. However, with Jingzia's command, the situation was completely different. The steel mannequins moved crazily, circling around the 2 battle mannequins and not fighting them head-on. With Jingzia's control, the battle puppets couldn't concentrate. The rapidly moving steel puppets caused the battle puppets to be at a loss. They didn't know which one to attack. At this time, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng looked at each other and very tacitly pounced on Tang Gung. A series of dazzling changes made Tang Gung completely dumbfounded. He didn't know what was going on. None of the battle puppets beside him were there. Facing 2 experts with deep hostility, Tang Gung didn't think much and turned to run. However, at this moment, his whole body was covered in cold sweat. That feeling of extreme danger made him use all of his strength. The only thought in his mind was to run quickly. The feeling of death floated in his heart. At this moment, Tang Gung's earth attribute was fully displayed. Whether it was Lei Xingfeng's lightning hand or Gao Ye's ice hand, they couldn't stop Tang Gung. When a heavenly monarch wanted to escape with all his strength, it was very difficult for other heavenly monarchs to stop him. Even if there were 2 heavenly monarchs, it would be useless. Watching Tang Gung escape into the forest, Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng ran back at the same time. What a joke! There were still 2 battle puppets. If they didn't catch them now, when would they catch them? They were absolute treasures and were much better than any other human puppets. Without a command, the battle puppet's intelligence was not as good as Jingzia's. Amidst the roars, Lei Xingfeng fixed them with lightning and then quickly tied them up with metal ropes. Jingzia was very experienced in dispelling their battle abilities. Lei Xingfeng obtained 2 more battle puppets. Of course, these things had to be reprogrammed and recharged by Jingzia. Putting away the steel puppets and metal spiders, Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "This guy didn't come to fight. He came to give us gifts." Gao Yi also laughed a few times and said, "Where are the others?" Lei Xingfeng said, "They should be hiding. They are very clever. They should be afraid of affecting our battle." Before he finished speaking, he heard a burst of exclamations from the forest not far away. There were also sounds of battle. Gao Ye's expression changed slightly. Lei Xingfeng didn't say anything at all and directly rushed into the forest. Just as he reached the edge of the forest, he saw Tang Gung walking out of the forest with 1 captive in each hand and a circle of people around him. Lei Xingfeng let out a long breath. He was afraid that Tang Gung would kill his senior brothers and sisters. If that happened, even if he was killed, he probably wouldn't be able to take it. Tang Gung smiled sinisterly and proudly. He had one hand around Tung Yuan's neck and the other around the neck of a Nine Rings bodyguard. This bodyguard was Tung Yuan's bodyguard. He dragged the two of them out and gritted his teeth. I have never suffered such a big loss in my life. Bastard. I thought you guys didn't have any openings. Lei Xingfeng shouted, All of you come back. Xian Zhaoluan and the others angrily returned to Lei Xingfeng's side. Whether it was Xian Zhaoluan or Qi Meiyan, they all felt powerless. This person had killed his way into the crowd. No matter what kind of attack they used, they couldn't hurt him at all. Because Tung Yuan and Miao Ling were the weakest, they were surrounded by everyone to protect them. Tang Geng thought that they were important people, so he didn't care about the others and directly grabbed Tung Yuan. Tung Yuan's bodyguards went up to fight with their lives, but they were also caught by him. Tang Geng sneered and said, Hand over my treasures and compensate me for my losses. Jing Zia suddenly said in Lei Xingfeng's ear, Okay. Although Gao Yi didn't understand what Jing Zia meant, he knew that Lei Xingfeng was very smart. Lei Xingfeng obviously understood what Jing Zia meant. He slowly nodded and said, I will negotiate. Chapter 430. Tang Geng sneered as he watched Lei Xingfeng walk forward. Of course, Gao Yi remained where he was. If the two of them came together, he would probably have to retreat. Only Jing Zia followed Lei Xingfeng. However, she didn't have the giant axe in her hand this time and didn't seem to be a threat. Tang Geng knew that this female puppet wasn't easy to fight. Lei Xingfeng said, What are you going to do? If you kill them, I swear that I will hunt you down until you die. It was necessary to threaten him first so that he wouldn't dare to be ruthless. Once he wanted to kill someone, he had to consider the consequences first. Tang Geng said, You don't have to threaten me. I know what to do. Humph, if you push me too far, we'll just die together. Even if I can't die with you too, none of your subordinates will live. Lei Xingfeng knew that he wasn't bluffing. If a heaven monarch wanted to risk his life, he and Gao Yi wouldn't be able to protect this group of people. However, he also had a trump card. If it really came to that, he could directly open the mirror world and quickly take them into it. However, he didn't want to expose the existence of the mirror world unless it was absolutely necessary. Gao Yi said, Remember, don't let me see you alone. I will beat you up every time I see you. Even if I can't kill you, I won't let you live in peace. Tang Geng's face turned slightly pale. He also knew the consequences of angering a peak heaven monarch. It was quite bad. Lei Xingfeng said indifferently, Say it. What do you want? I'm warning you, you provoke me first. Don't ask for too much. Or else. The implication was that if it was really too much, they would fight to the death. Tang Geng was also a little uneasy. After thinking for a moment, he said, Give me back my 4 treasures. Lei Xingfeng said, 2 of them are damaged, and the other 2 are intact. I'm not returning them to you. I'm exchanging them for 2 of us. Bargaining was necessary. Tang Geng shouted, Impossible. Otherwise, I will risk my life to kill them. Gao Yi said, Kill me and I'll see. Lei Xingfeng's heart skipped a beat. He didn't want senior brother Tung Yuan to be killed. Before he could say anything, Tang Geng gave in and said, At least give me 2 of my treasures in exchange. As soon as he said this, Lei Xingfeng let out a sigh of relief. He couldn't help but cheer in his heart. It's done. He said, Good. Lei Xingfeng said, Jing Zia, release the 2 battle puppets. Tang Geng, release the people as well. In order to retrieve the battle doll, Tang Geng had to release Tung Yuan and his guards. The battle doll slowly walked over, and Tung Yuan and his guards slowly walked back. When the 2 clashed, Tang Geng shouted, Do it! Strangely, at this moment, Jing Zia's clear voice sounded at the same time. Do it! Then, Tang Geng was dumbfounded. The two battle dolls pounced on him crazily instead of Tung Yuan and his guards. In a flash, Tang Gung understood that the opponent had an expert in controlling the battle dolls. He actually managed to break the battle dolls in such a short time. In an instant, he only had time to raise his defense. An intense golden brilliance flashed. Bang! Bang! Two loud sounds. Tang Gung was thrown out. At this moment, he couldn't care less. He frantically flew into the distance and shouted, "I will not let you go. Ayaya, motherf asterisk cur." His voice was still floating in the air, but he had already disappeared. This was the power of a heaven monarch. Even if he was surrounded by so many experts, if he wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Xian Zhaoluan's nose turned even redder. He exclaimed, "Amazing! Who would have thought that he would betray us at such a time?" Anyone who was paying attention to the battle just now saw that Tang Gung was injured. Gao Yi said, "This person can't do anything to us, but if you encounter him, you will be in big trouble. So, in the future, you have to follow at least a heaven monarch expert when you go out." Xian Zhaoluan and the others all had bitter faces. In their sect, there were only 3 heaven monarchs. Even their master was only a peak perfected lord. They were not even as strong as Lei Xingfeng. Who could protect them? At this moment, they all felt that their cultivation was too weak. Lei Xingfeng said, "It's okay. This world is very big. It's hard to meet him even if you want to. But it's right to be careful when you go out." Xian Zhaoluan sighed. "When I go back this time, I want to advance. No matter how dangerous it is, I can't go on like this." In fact, he had been on the verge of advancing for a long time. It was just that in his hometown, there were few times when he was threatened, so he didn't have the motivation to advance. Now, he knew that if he didn't advance, it would be difficult for him to even go out. This was a bit too much. The others had similar thoughts. In the past, they had guards protecting them and elders taking care of them, so their lives were too comfortable. Who would have thought that after coming here? It would be so difficult. All of them made up their minds to cultivate properly and not be lazy anymore. This was especially true for Tung Yuan. Just like Jean Depang, he was a standard foodie who didn't put much effort into cultivation. Being captured this time was the biggest blow to him. Gao Yi didn't say much. He directly opened the secret door. Everyone returned to the camp through the secret door. Not long after they reached home, AI-8 came over and said, "Ancestor is back. He wants you to go." Lei Xingfeng patted his head and said, "I'll go right away." AI-8 left. Lei Xingfeng sighed. "So busy." Gao Yi smiled and said, "I'll go with you." Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's go together." The two quickly arrived at Wu Yang's house. There were only Wu Yang and Guqi in the room. Seeing the two enter, Wu Yang and Guqi both stood up to greet them. Lei Xingfeng's status was completely different now. According to the rules, he could call Wu Yang's senior brother. Even more abnormal was that according to the rules, Guqi even had to call him martial uncle. However, Lei Xingfeng couldn't do it at all, nor could he accept such a title. He said, "Ancestor, master." Gao Yi nodded slightly. His strength wasn't much different from Wu Yang's, so he had to be respectful. Wu Yang smiled and said, "Afeng, Brother Gao, please sit." Guqi said, "Afeng, we've already set up a super long-distance secret door. We're preparing to move most of the people guarding the secret treasure space over. Do you want to go back?" Lei Xingfeng immediately said, "Yes, I want to go back." As long as he could confirm the location of the secret treasure space, he wouldn't need Wu Yang's secret door. He could directly enter the secret treasure space through the mirror realm. In other words, even if Wu Yang and the others gave up on the secret treasure space, he could still use it. The most powerful ability of the mirror realm was that it ignored distance. The more places you went, the more coordinates you had. Wu Yang nodded and said, "Yes, Little Phone will go back too. He's going to organize people to come through the secret door. This time, he'll use a lot of sky divination crystals." Lei Xingfeng said, "Is it enough? I still have a lot of sky divination crystals." Wu Yang said, "If you have extra, give me some. It uses too much energy. With sky divination crystals, it'll be much better." Lei Xingfeng immediately took out 2 boxes of sky divination crystals. Each box contained 6 crystals. Wu Yang immediately smiled and said, "A Feng, you're even richer than me." "Ha! With these sky divination crystals, I'll save a lot of energy. Otherwise, who knows how many Yin rings I'll have to use." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Is there any news of Yi?" Wu Yang was silent for a moment, then said, "I've sent people to look for him. There are also people waiting outside the secret treasure space, but they haven't seen him yet." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but sigh. Who knew that the secret door would change like this? If he had known, he wouldn't have let the old man out. It was really difficult to find him now. Fortunately, after returning this time and confirming the coordinates, he could send his own people to wait there, and then send others to look for him. Wu Yang smiled and comforted him. "It'll be fine. Almost all of the experts in the secret door have left. There aren't any experts left on that continent, and even sages with 6 rings and above are hard to find. Plus, that place is a mess right now. If we move away, others will move in. Once they develop, that continent will be over. Yes, it's completely over for cultivators. I dare say that the experts in the future won't surpass sages with 3 rings and will decline bit by bit until there are no more cultivators left." Wu Yang directly declared that the continent was a land of death for cultivators. Lei Xingfeng was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Wu Yang to be so pessimistic about his hometown. Gucci agreed. Even if there are a few left in the secret door, they won't be able to hold on in the end. In the end, they'll still chase after our footsteps and escape. At that time, there won't be any high-level cultivators left. Once there are no high-level cultivators, even the most talented, ordinary people won't be able to cultivate. Gao Yi said, "Even if there are a few super geniuses who cultivate to monarch, they'll still suffocate there because they can't come to the outer space. If they don't come here, they can't leave." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "What do you mean?" Gao Yi said, "Don't you know? This place is a springboard. We can use this place to enter the great world." Wu Yang said, "Yes, this place is a springboard. However, we can't go to the outside world for now. Let's wait until we're stronger. Otherwise, we won't even know how we died. Actually, the Dawn continent is also a springboard. Unfortunately, we couldn't pass it and were directly defeated." Lei Xingfeng said, "We'll be cultivating here. Once we're strong enough, we'll go to the outside world." Wu Yang nodded and said, "We'll only be able to go if there are at least a few Dao monarch level experts. Otherwise, it'll be too dangerous." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but click his tongue. It wasn't that easy to become a Dao monarch. Perhaps only by finding a suitable cultivation technique here would it be slightly easier to become a Dao monarch. This was probably the wish of all high-level cultivators of the secret door. Gao Yi said, "Easier said than done. I've stayed here for so long, but I've only just become a heavenly monarch. I almost died here." Wu Yang said, "That's if you're alone, without anyone's help. Without anyone's help, you're all alone. Although we cultivators value strength above all else, it's still better to have more people. Especially in a group of people with a few great masters in the lead, you'll have more options to deal with the crisis." Gao Yi nodded in agreement. This trip proved that these words were true. If it weren't for Lei Xingfeng and Jing Zia, It would be almost impossible for Gao Yi to defeat Tang Geng with his strength alone. After all, there was strength in numbers, especially when there were more people and more experts. They had the strength to crush their opponents. Fighting alone was definitely not the style of the secret door. Chapter 431. After the hidden sect moved over. The luxurious life immediately became difficult. Everyone was trying their best to adapt. The originally lazy lifestyle was forced to change. If one didn't work hard here, they would be eliminated very quickly. This change was extremely beneficial to the hidden sect. Wu Yang and Gucci understood this point, so they were very determined to move. Wu Yang said, "Follow me, I'll send you there first." The few of them arrived at the secret room Wu Yang built. It was a very simple underground secret room. A secret door was already set up. Wu Yang said, "For this secret door, I spent a lot of materials, but I had no choice but to set it up. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to go back." Lei Xingfeng already knew that secret doors were separated into internal and external ones. Only the secret door set up outside could be used for long-distance teleportation. It was different from the mirror world. Once the distance was exceeded, even a heaven monarch would be helpless. There was a small secret to this success. After confirming the location of the Dawn continent, it was equivalent to having a springboard. This allowed heaven monarch realm experts to use the secret door to go back. Wu Yang inserted the sky evolution crystal into the secret door. This time, he inserted 2 sky evolution crystals, which could be used for a period of time. He couldn't help but sigh and say, "How extravagant! 2 sky evolution crystals." Even in outer space, it's very difficult to obtain sky evolution crystals. Instantly, Wu Yang opened the secret door and said, "Go." Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi stepped inside. After coming out of Wu Yang's secret room, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi walked out of Wu Yang's residence. Gao Yi said, "This is the secret room you're living in?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, it seems like we have to give up." Gao Yi said, "It's indeed a pity. The secret room is the best place for a sect to stay. It's hidden and safe. In ancient times, there were also powerful existences who could directly open up such a living space." Lei Xingfeng said, "The mirror world is more advanced than this." Gao Yi said, "The mirror world has its own benefits, but the hidden space also has its own benefits. First of all, the hidden space is much bigger than the mirror world. Also, it is attached to a continent, so it can get a lot of supplies, and it can grow bit by bit." Lei Xingfeng said, "For me, the mirror realm is more practical." Gao Yi nodded. "Of course. You're destined to run around everywhere. The mirror realm is an excellent transportation hub. With this treasure, it'll be convenient for you to go anywhere." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "You also have a certain amount of power, so you can enjoy the same benefits." Gao Yi laughed. "I didn't think that joining would bring me such benefits. Hee hee." He was very proud of himself. He felt that his choice this time was very wise. He had been alone for many years, and he understood the pain and suffering. If he wasn't a resilient person, he wouldn't be able to bear it. Going crazy was a light punishment. It was very likely that he would find a large forbidden area and run around madly. He would also die silently. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go to my house." Gao Yi said, "Is there anyone else at home? Based on your temper, I reckon everyone is in the mirror realm." Lei Xingfeng said, "I left a few people behind. I didn't take everyone with me." Lei Xingfeng's house was very close to Wu Yang's residence. The two of them quickly returned to Lei Xingfeng's house. As they walked into the courtyard, Gao Yi couldn't help but praise, "What a beautiful house, hee hee." The house here was beautifully built. It was built with excellent materials, and it was very old. It was simple and luxurious. It was quite a shock. There were a few attendants left at home. When they saw Lei Xingfeng come in, they were all ecstatic. They all thought that Lei Xingfeng had abandoned them. They didn't expect to see their master. They all came forward to salute him. Lei Xingfeng knew what they were thinking. He said, "Don't worry. From now on, there will be shifts." When they arrived at the wooden shed, Lei Xingfeng immediately let Jean Daya, Mad Eagle, Tiger Love, Ishanel, and Jean Depang out. Jean Daya saw the familiar house and couldn't help but be stunned. He said, This your back?" Mad Eagle and Tiger Love were also stunned. They looked at each other and sighed at the same time. Mad Eagle said, "A Feng is getting more and more powerful." Jean Depang cheered. He was most familiar with this place. Since he followed Lei Xingfeng, he had spent most of his time here. He already had a deep affection for this place. He ran to the back. His big kitchen was at the back. It was built by him. He had to see it when he came back. As he ran to the back, he said, "Wait here. I'll cook something delicious." Everyone couldn't help but laugh. Ishanel said, "Master, let some people out. Otherwise, I won't be able to command them." Lei Xingfeng nodded and let 7 or 8 attendants out. Although these people were ignorant, they were smart enough not to say anything. People at the bottom had their own philosophy of survival. Although Lei Xingfeng was very generous and wouldn't casually punish people, Ishanel wasn't so easy to talk to. The whole house suddenly became lively. Any building that lacked people would quickly decline. Ishanel led a group of people and began to tidy up the yard. Jean Depang quickly made a table full of food. This time, he didn't forget to give the black bird a plate of freshly cut meat and put it on the table. The black bird enjoyed this kind of treatment very much. It was rare that it didn't have a poisonous tongue. It flew to the table and began to peck. In fact, Lei Xingfeng ate less and less because his body rarely got energy from food. Most of the energy he needed was from Lei Yin. However, his hobby was eating. In essence, he was no different from Jean Depang. This had become the most important thing in his mind. It was hard to give up. From filling his stomach to eating delicious food, Lei Xingfeng had very high requirements for food. If it wasn't delicious, he would rather not eat it. It wasn't necessary. Delicious food was the only thing that mattered. Whether it was rice or noodles, Lei Xingfeng basically didn't touch them. He ate all kinds of dishes. He ate very little, just savoring the good taste. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Jean, you can stay here in the future. If you want to find me, it's very convenient. Just go back to the mirror world. I've already given you permission." Jean Depang nodded. "No problem. Leave more people for me. Since this place is going to be abandoned in the future, we'll take it." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "That's right. This is still an important base for us. In the future, you can recruit some people from outside. I believe many people will be willing to come. Also, pay attention to those with cultivation potential. The development of our school depends on the people here." Mad Eagle said, "That's not a problem. If I have time, I'll go there too. It's very convenient anyway." Tiger Love agreed. "Afon, don't worry about this. With us here, there will be an endless stream of disciples." Gao Yi clapped and smiled. "Very good, very good. The other secret sects have all lost their legacies. Without successors, even if their strength is at its peak, it's useless. People will die eventually. It's just a matter of time. Only legacies can't be lost. With the mirror world and the hidden treasure space, you can take root in the mortal world." Hee, a smart move. Lei Xingfeng was very happy. "It's not that I'm smart. It's because I have the mirror world that I can do this." Yes, when my cultivation increases a bit, I can tell master and grandmaster about the mirror world. Gao Yi understood Exinfeng's way of doing things. A child would not be able to possess such a large amount of wealth that would cause countless unexpected fights. Only when the child grows into a strong man would there be no conflicts, as a strong man would have the ability to protect himself. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to challenge Grandmaster and Grandmaster's bottom line. He didn't want Grandmaster and Grandmaster to make bad decisions because of the mirror world. This kind of blow was something he couldn't bear. Some relationships had to be protected very carefully. This meal was very enjoyable. Jean Depang was already an indispensable figure in Lei Xingfeng's family. With him at home, everyone felt like they had returned home. This was a large family. Exinfeng didn't expect that without much management, it would become a large family with him as the leader. However, he didn't have any conflicting thoughts. If he could become strong, there was no reason to reject it. Especially with the cruelty of this world, it was much more severe than his previous world. Without strength, he would definitely be eaten by others until nothing was left. After the meal, Lei Xingfeng began to assign people. Those who needed to go out to search for people were sent out to look for people, and those who needed to guard the house were sent out to guard the house. There were many ordinary people in the hidden space. They were all abandoned by the hidden door. They were supposed to live and die on their own, but after Lei Xingfeng returned, he immediately sent people to take care of them. At this time, someone rushed in and shouted, "The old man is back." It was a servant, a third-ring sage. He was so excited because Lei Xingfeng once said that whoever found the old man would be rewarded with 10 yin rings. For a third-ring sage, 10 yin rings was a large fortune. Whether it was for his own use or to trade, it was the best reward. Lei Xingfeng was stunned, then overjoyed. He couldn't help but laugh. Good. He raised his hand and threw a small leather bag to the servant. The attendant could tell with a pinch that there were more than 10 yin rings inside. Of course, he also understood that he couldn't take all of these yin rings by himself. He wasn't the only one guarding the hidden treasure. Even so, he was overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events. Lei Xingfeng stood up and ran out. Just as he reached the entrance, he saw Thunderstorm walking over. When he saw Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng immediately let out a sigh of relief. He was still a 9th ring sage. He was afraid that Thunderstorm would really advance. If that happened, it would be difficult for him to go to the magnetic storm mountain range to cultivate. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Yi, I've been looking for you for a long time." Thunderstorm was surprised. "Why are you looking for me?" "Hee, you're thinking of Yi, aren't you?" "Feng, you're not a child anymore. You need to learn to be independent." Lei Xingfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Yi, it's not like that. The hidden door has moved. If you don't come back soon, you won't be able to find us." Actually, he was exaggerating. After all, with the mirror world, this place wasn't considered abandoned. If he wanted to come back, he could come back at any time. The old man Lei Bao was shocked. "What do you mean?" "Move." No matter how knowledgeable he was, he didn't know the secrets of the hidden door. Of course, he didn't know the situation. Outside, he had been looking for Thunderstorm's reign for a long time, but he couldn't find a suitable location. The main reason was that Thunderstorm's reign was very short and didn't have a fixed duration. Even if he did, it would dissipate quickly. How could he dare to take the risk of advancing? It was normal for him to fail. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.